It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell are together again in Acapulco, Mexico, which means there may be some tequila involved in this episode. We'll also talk about Microsoft and AI. Who's really running Microsoft? Paul doesn't think it's Satya Nadella much longer. We'll also talk about Xbox gaming and the best advice for 2026 from Paul Thurrott. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 966, recorded Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. You can't spell Gmail without AI. It's time for Windows Weekly. Hello, you winners and you dozers. We're going to talk about Microsoft. Before we do, let's take a trip down south to Acapulco.
Here we are.
Where Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell once again united in an attempt to conquer the beach. Hello, guys. Are you enjoying
the beach
Acapulco?
has conquered us.
I was going to say the beach conquered us, but that's okay.
That's not
we put up a good fight.
Don't know that we did. The beach wins most of the time.
Yeah.
We
They have the red
were
flags
touring
up.
around Acapulco yesterday, and
That's fun.
By the afternoon, the sun had gotten to us, and we were all ready.
I was literally delirious.
Yeah, it was
like
time
exposure
for.
to
Well,
the
needed
sun.
a nap. Needed a nap. That was
That's
a lot
what
of
you
sun.
want. And then add a little tequila to that, and life is good.
There might have been tequila involved. Why, yes, there was.
Yes. So Paul Thurrott at Thurrott.com and leanpub.com for his books. Richard Campbell at .NET Rocks and runasradio.com are here with us today. Our esteemed pair of Microsoft analysts. Let's talk about the latest news.
I don't know why I laugh when you say it. That's just like, okay. I guess so.
There was an interesting Copilot story, which I noted earlier today. We'll probably talk about it on Windows Weekly, where I think it was a police department used Copilot to do something, and it didn't work out so well. I have to look up the story.
This is the standard Copilot experience, I think.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it was just law enforcement. It's not like anything bad would have happened if it screwed up.
Yeah. Hey, well, you got to know where. Look, I'm an AI fanatic, as you know, but you got to know where to use it and where not to use it. Oh, this is it. It was the UK,
Right.
Yeah.
UK Police
the fake
Department
soccer game.
Yes, at the soccer game, they used Copilot AI, which hallucinated
Yep.
and banned football fans. Based.
I mean, to be fair, most of those people should be banned.
Yeah,
So,
well, the chief constable of the West Midlands Police has finally admitted that a hugely controversial decision to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans from the UK was purely based on a hallucination.
oh boy.
So don't.
We always
do
said
that.
there are gonna be news stories where this stuff screws up.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
At least no one died this time.
No. And I hope we all learned something.
We gave them back 3 hours of their life, so it was probably okay.
No one needs to see that beautiful game.
Have you been asking a non-deterministic programming model for facts? Well, there was your first mistake.
Yeah. Kev, who is in the UK, says it's kicked up a huge stink here in the UK.
Yeah, I suspect. Mostly because the police lied that they did it in the first place.
Right.
And then finally realized, no, it's better to blame the AI than try and cover up for it.
Yes. I think precisely so. But Microsoft is still, I mean, I see all the ads. It's funny because the PC makers, at least at CES, the story was, are downplaying the AI PCs a little bit. But Microsoft,
Just Dell.
It's a little more nuanced than
just
that.
Dell.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's your show. What am I saying? I'm going to shut
No,
up.
I mean,
and let
I
you
said
talk.
we are absolutely going to address this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, address it.
Oh, I guess we'll do it right now.
No time like the present.
No. So part of the problem.
No, you can address
that I
whatever
have-
you want. Anything
No, it's fine.
you
We can
want.
do this right now. I don't care.
Oh dear, that sounds like the tequila talking.
What's the matter?
Nothing.
Yeah. So CS was last week. this kind of thing bugs me because it's so cheap and easy to, everyone sees this headline and they're like, yep, this verifies everything I think, it's perfect. But some guy from Dell, I guess on a stage somewhere, said something like consumers are not buying PCs because of AI. And so you're like, all right, well, objectively, that's probably true. But the problem is like a lot of people are anti-AI, deny that AI is real or that it's, not going to destroy the world or whatever it is. And so that becomes the point of those stories. And when I hear this, I think to myself, Dell is one of the top 3 PC makers in the world. However, I cover their earnings every single quarter. And one thing I know is that they don't sell a lot of computers to consumers. Mm-hmm. So I looked it up. And I got to tell you, of the companies that actually do make PCs, there is no company less qualified to talk on the subject than Dell.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, consumer PCs anyway.
Yeah,
they're a business place.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about consumers PCs. So I look at the world's biggest PC makers like Lenovo and HP, and what are they saying about AI? And they sell a lot of computers to consumers. And then I compare it to what Dell's doing. And I got to tell you, there's a little bit of a disconnect here. So Lenovo, the world's biggest computer maker, PC maker, record market share this past year, will not stop talking about AI.
I know my X1 has a nice big Copilot button.
Yeah, they make far more money selling computers to consumers than any other company, $15 billion in the previous quarter. This is not the December quarter. Sorry, this is the latest data I had at the time. Up 12% year over year. Record almost 26% market share, which is unit sales. Industry-leading profitability. 33% of their sales are now AI PCs. Also, they're the biggest maker of AI PCs in the world with 31.1% market share. They're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Those guys are kind of kicking ass with AI. HP, number 2, $10.4 billion that quarter. Consumer PC sales up 10% year over year. 30% of the PCs it sells now AI PCs. Net revenues from consumer PC sales were $11 billion. They're marketing the hell out of AI, et cetera, et cetera. Both these companies, maybe uniquely, I don't think this is a useful thing for them to do, but they're both making their own AI chatbots and services, right? Even Apple, right? Mac revenues of $8.7 billion. Most of those to consumers. They don't break it down, but we have to assume most of that's consumers. 13% up year over year. Obviously pushing Apple Intelligence really hard across all their platforms. They're all doing great. What about Dell? $1.9 billion in revenues from PCs to consumers. That's approximately 1/6 or 7th of what Lenovo does. Decline of 7% year over year. By far, most of their revenues come from commercial customers, meaning businesses, governments, whatever. This company makes boring, terrible computers that no human being could ever love. And they do it because that's what businesses want. Yep. That's where all the money comes from. So for a guy from that company to stand up on a stage and say, let me tell you what consumers don't want, I have to tell you, I don't think he knows.
Good way to get attention.
So we can ignore that.
Yeah.
Well, also a good way to justify terrible sales.
Yeah, you could, right. In other words,
don't blame our marketing and product production. Blame the industry.
The problem for Dell is these trends have been going on for years. This is not anything new. They're basically walking away from consumer PC sales. With the exception of, premium kind of gaming class computers, because there's a lot of good margins there.
But they did kill the XPS brand and then bring it back when they realized, that was a really dumb thing to do.
Just in case you thought they knew anything about marketing or consumers. Yeah. So I don't know. Also, less newsworthy, I guess. Sorry, I know this is boring, but the CEO of Lenovo also spoke at CES, and he said, I don't see a world without AI. Nobody can avoid it. It's not going to replace you. It will empower you. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. So I get, it's a cheap, easy headline, like consumers aren't buying PCs because of AI. Yeah, they probably aren't, but consumers aren't buying PCs. So whatever. When they do buy a PC, just like when they do upgrade a phone or whatever else, they're going to get a lot of AI capabilities. And they may not understand that that's what they're doing, but they're getting real advantages from having those capabilities on the computer. So it may not be why they're buying it, but that's like saying, I'm not buying a car because it has power windows. or wiper blades or 4 tires or something. It's like, it's just part of it.
And not even the most important part.
Or it's a bunch of little things that you just expect and don't think about, but no one would ever say like, this is why I did it.
Yeah.
It's not flashy. It's just a lot of little things at work. So,
and no more are people buying PCs because they have AI in it than Dell's statement that people aren't buying PCs because they have AI in them. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
AI is not a driving force in any of this, actually. This is really just seems like Dell trying to find an excuse for sucking at consumer products.
Or just like, we're at CS. We don't have a big consumer presence. How can we make some news?
Yeah, I know. I'll say what a group of people really want to hear, which is AI sucking.
Yep, and then everyone can just knee-jerk write about it and say, he told you so. And it's like, well, okay. But I see a world, I can tell you something 5 years from now, AI is going to be a big thing. 5 years from now, Dell may not even have consumer PCs. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So that's my take on that. It's not the thing you would have read on every other news site, but I think it's a lot closer to the truth. So whatever. But we'll get back to the AI stuff because there's a lot there, unfortunately. But the one thing I kind of do want to address, and I think this is a legit controversy, I guess, is Microsoft, perhaps in concert with the United States government, it's hard to say here, has decided that they're going to make their AI sustainable, which I think we can all agree is impossible. And they have specified how they're going to do that. They're going to make sure they're actually paying for it, which is hilarious. They're going to make sure that their data centers don't increase electricity prices for people in that community or wherever those things are. Minimize their water use, replenish that water that they do use. They're going to create jobs, which we all sort of understand is not actually possible.
Well,
but
there's a few, but most data centers are basically empty.
They're going to add to their the local tax base so they can afford things like police forces, hospitals, schools, parks, etc. And then they're going to invest in local AI training and nonprofits. And
the big one on the tax base one, the thing that hit me that what Brad Smith said was, we are not going to ask for tax breaks.
Yeah.
Because they have been. They've been pretty consistently going in, we'll build a data center, but only if we get reduced taxes for 5 years. That kind
Did he say that if unsolicited tax break offers were made, they would not accept them?
That's not what he said. No, he did not say that.
Okay, I'm just curious. Look, Brad Smith is the guy you send out for this kind of a thing. He's good at this.
That thing is a tome, but it's very well written.
Yeah. It doesn't seem possible or feasible or believable. But this is Microsoft is in the middle of a very serious problem with AI messaging, and it's of their own make.
But you realize this is exactly the same message they were saying about data centers 5 years ago. When they were struggling to build data centers in 2019 and 2020, they rolled out almost this exact narrative. More or less, it looks like they've just swapped the word data center for AI.
So I think the only difference here is literally the term AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
That AI has such a negative, visceral reaction with so many people, in part, maybe largely, because Microsoft and other companies like Microsoft have pushed it so hard that the reality of what they're delivering, it has not ever met whatever the promises that they have said.
And they never can.
We entered the agentic AI era about 18 months ago, and I still don't have a single agent doing a single thing on my behalf anywhere. And they're just talking about stuff, and it's like, okay, but where's this going to happen? So this is, like I said, this is a problem of their own making. It's interesting. Sometime last year, I don't remember, September-ish, Satya Nadella ceded a large chunk of his CEO responsibilities to another person.
Judson at top.
Yeah, and I don't know what he's been doing since then.
The funny thing is he's been doing exactly the same job he was always doing, because he was always responsible for commercial business. It's just that he was a president in charge of commercial business.
No, I don't know what Satya's been doing.
I don't know, other than wearing more leather jackets and hanging out with Jensen.
But apparently he's bored because he started blogging.
Yeah, there's something.
And I think I might have mentioned this in passing last week or whenever the last time we spoke was, or at some previous time, but you don't get too far into this initial blog post before you kind of throw up a little bit in your mouth, because the way he communicates is so terrible. But what this boils down to is, please stop ragging on AI, right? Which is a message we're starting to see in multiple quarters, right? OpenAI is doing this now. Anthropic did this at CES, actually.
Yeah.
NVIDIA's doing it. The CEO
Jensen,
of NVIDIA
did the thing. It was on a podcast.
And I'm sorry, but I in the sense that I have my own visceral response to AI deniers because I feel they're so off base. I also have a visceral reaction to the way these companies are marketing these capabilities that do not exist, and that what they should be focusing on are the real world benefits, which are there, and there's stuff happening here. It's very interesting. It's good. It's going to be long lasting. It's going to only get better, et cetera, et cetera. But all the money that's being thrown around, the partnerships that literally exist between every single company in this space and all of the other companies in this space, they're trying to end run around regulation and any government interaction whatsoever. It feels wrong.
Well, I love that they feel surprised that the average consumer doesn't like AI after spending all that time telling investors, hey, we're going to get rid of all jobs with this.
Yeah, but that's like somebody walks up and punches you in the face, and then you get mad, and you're like, what are you mad at me for? I'm a good guy. And well, I think it's because you punched me in the face. So like I said earlier, and
the punch in the face looks like it was a lie, right?
Yeah, right.
All these companies that have laid off people because AI is going to do the job of now hiring them back because it can't.
Yeah. So I find this is kind of fascinating. So I mentioned this in passing this morning to Brad. I kind of want to throw this by you guys because this is ill-formed and it's not. This maybe doesn't make any sense, but if you are familiar with Microsoft's history, if you're deeply involved in the Microsoft ecosystem, whatever it might be, you would know that Bill Gates co-founded this company in the mid-'70s. They've had 3 CEOs, Gates, Ballmer, and now Satya Nadella. Gates and Satya Nadella are engineer types, I guess we'll call them. Ballmer more of a businessman, although he had an excellent understanding of the business. I mean, he wasn't, he didn't come up in the world as a technical guy, but obviously by nature of the job, he could very technically. He knew what he was doing. But we've made the case, sort of, right, that who's really running this company? I just mentioned the fact that he ceded a lot of his responsibilities about 6 to 9 months ago, whatever that was. And in some ways, you could make the argument that Amy Hood is running Microsoft. I've also talked a lot, especially with the past 2, 3, 4 quarters.
She's the CFO. Sorry. And even before this whole play with Jensen happened, you said this about the quarterlies. Satya would say something, and then Amy would literally.
Oh, yeah. She would almost put him down.
Yeah.
She didn't ever actually say this, but it was like, well, that's cute, Satya. But let me add some color to
that's
that.
Cute.
And it was like, oh, geez, you can hear the stuff for yourself. It's out there. It's very strange, but in the sense that maybe some of us criticize Google because they're really an ad company that makes so much money they can invest in and create tech products, right? That on their own may or may not ever be successful, but certainly don't generate as much money as any of the ad stuff. You could make the point that Microsoft today is transitioning to its own different kind of a company where, yes, they have obviously a huge tech business, infrastructure, and the actual products that end users and businesses use. But really, the business there in some ways is the money. And that the management of money and the external management of the forces arrayed against them, which are not competitors, but are governments and regulators, suggests that maybe the next CEO of Microsoft should not be an engineer, but should be someone like Amy Hood and or Brad Smith.
Interesting.
In other words, people or a person or people who are good at those things, where, you obviously you're going to have technical people running the businesses inside Microsoft, like Azure, Windows Server, whatever they have. But at the top, Microsoft's success, that arc of market cap, right? I guess for you guys it would be that way, sorry. Is not because Azure is super good or Windows is doing great or any of that stuff. It's because they're doing such a good job managing money and managing expectations of Wall Street and managing investors and potential investors, shareholders, et cetera. And this gets us into a weird area. Again, this is ill-formed. I just came up with this.
I think wouldn't you be arguing against this, though, as a technologist, Paul? I mean, isn't this why we have shitification, is the financialization of technology?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying this is a good thing.
Okay.
I want to be super clear. I'm saying this might be the natural next step for this company that I am increasingly at odds with, because they have ruined some of their own products for these reasons, and I hate it, But given that, if you kind of, take what does the next step look like or the future, you could almost make a case. I mean, if you believe that Amy Hood is technically sort of running Microsoft as a business today, which I think you could argue effectively, maybe the next CEO of Microsoft needs to be that kind of a person and not a technology.
This is a parallel to something like McDonald's, where eventually they figured out the real estate business of the restaurant was more important than the food. Because Microsoft is really not a software company anymore, right? They're an infrastructure company. They own a huge number of data centers, and that's
and you're talking about the same thing. It's real estate. Yeah, it's the cost of items that go. What do you call it over time? You kind of amortize something over time.
The capital costs.
Yeah, and this is not tech.
Yeah, it's not tech.
This is not.
It's becoming an
utility. Infinite loop in a software program. It's financial market manipulation and.
Well, and arguably
hiring companies so you don't have to worry about regulators. And,
managing regulation. And then ultimately the product is the software that generates software.
Right. Listen, all three of us, no matter where we are in life right now, got into this world because we were enthusiastic about technology. We care about this stuff. We care about the products. And these companies are not, I don't feel like they're not enthusiastic about these products anymore. I mean, I think they're enthusiastic about making money, which, I get on some level, they're businesses, but I'm so far removed now from the point of this company. I don't even know where to start anymore. I don't even understand how we got here. So we can look at something like Copilot and say, yeah, it's good, bad, and different. We can talk about that. But the reality is, from Microsoft's perspective, that's just about perception and growth and future opportunity. And I don't know that they even care if that thing's good, bad, or indifferent. If it was selling fine and it was terrible, they wouldn't care at all. So I don't know. It's kind of I don't know. I need to work on this a little bit in my brain. But I was just thinking about this morning. There's a lot of speculation, for example, about when Tim Cook will step down at Apple. I think we could ask similar questions about Satya Nadella at Microsoft, because unlike Tim Cook, he actually did give up part of his job. It's a different situation.
Yeah, I wondered if Satya was freeing up time to try and straighten the AI ship, but I have no evidence of that. I also saw it as, hey, maybe I'll let the blame land on Judson rather than me when the bubble bursts.
Yeah.
The other point is he's been CEO almost as long as Ballmer was.
Yeah,
right.
It's
time for him to go anyway.
I think I was working toward this idea, but not on purpose. But I had mentioned to Richard earlier on this trip something that was along these lines, and you made the point, Richard, that Satya Nadella is the chairman of the board.
Yep.
And to me, if you're setting up a guy to be a fall guy potentially, I would say, well, yeah, but the board of directors should be the thing that looks at the real culprit, so to speak, and says, well, it's you guys that have to go, or you or whoever. And I suppose if he's the chairman of the board, I don't know how this works, but maybe he would be able to prevent that from happening.
It's a fundamental, there's always been a complaint, especially in tech companies, that their boards have been crony boards.
Yeah.
Right. The CEO is also the chairman, and he puts his friends on the board, and they all make money from it, and they just affirm whatever that person does. And I thought it was a real important move when Washington took control of the board, the chair position, when Satya was initially brought in, and now they've switched back. Now they've sort of re-cronied the board.
Re-cronied?
Yeah.
It's the re-cronying of the board.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to be clear, even if you don't worry about the cronyism, all those guys have options, and those shares only keep going up. So
Yes.
like the horror show in this entire thing is this: you are beholden to the shareholders, and you've made all the board members shareholders, means as long as they're making money, everything is fine.
But this is why at some point it won't be okay.
No, it'll hit it hard when it hits, for sure.
Yeah. Well, trying to send it to Skype, but that's not going to work. Anyhow, so it's just a thought. But when I look at we've been complaining about the marketing of AI for 3 years now. We've seen multiple instances of stories or rumors that Copilot is not doing very well compared to other AIs, tiny market share or usage share, I guess in this case.
But do they need to do well with selling Copilot, or is it Copilot just a feature that sells Windows?
No, they're selling Copilot directly because it's...
And they need to.
An added on SKU kind of a thing.
Well, they've committed to doing it that way. But, there's also an interesting movement towards AI just being an integrated part of software, and you don't even call it.
No, that's the way it should be. But I think the move last year in the fall, I think ahead of Ignite, they made the point every PC is going to be an AI PC. Okay. So there's this weird thing now going on where you can get Copilot capabilities without paying for Copilot. But I think that's sort of the point. They're trying to expose people to it so that they will want to upgrade to a paid SKU or whatever it might be. In businesses, that would be more prevalent. But
maybe the mistake is that they made it a paid SKU. If they just said, "Hey, Copilot's included in everything, everybody gets it." Look at their current profits and look at their current quarter. Like, the numbers are awesome. The only problem is market share compared to OpenAI. If you just gave it to everyone, so the numbers were automatically as big as your customer base.
Well, so the problem with that is just the actual cost to Microsoft of that infrastructure,
which nobody's actually talking about in a meaningful way so far.
Yep.
So, but still, it's like you're making a self-fulfilling prophecy by trying to measure it from the outset and showing you're behind. You're making it even harder to cover those costs.
So the way this started was we're going to have this paid SKU for businesses and then one for consumers. They got rid of the one for consumers. They added a new SKU of Microsoft 365. They raised prices across the board on Microsoft 365. Actually, I think the business one's going to kick in July. Mm-hmm. So you're like, all right, well, it sounds like they're leaning toward that. But really, I feel like they would have to raise prices more than whatever depending on whatever the average was, 15% or something. Like, maybe for this to make sense, it would have to be 25% or whatever the number is. But I think they really want to make this a growth explosion from a revenue perspective, and they want people to pay for this thing.
Well, there was always an argument that cloud growth was slowing down in 23 when they jumped on the AI horse.
Yeah. I mean, this is the whole insurtification thing. Like, what do you do when you've either saturated a market or you just, whatever, you've plateaued for whatever reason? You've got this thing that's doing great. It's been the growth engine for a long time. Remember, Azure was 70% growth for several years, every quarter. Then it was 60 and 40 and in the 30s. And that's when they are like, oh, AI, because Wall Street starting getting a little edgy. We're not having those massive growth numbers anymore like we used to on cloud. I don't know. There's something. We've gotten into a weird area here.
But it definitely feels this is the bubble feeling, right?
Yeah.
You think it's going to pop?
Well, you've been making these promises to investors at these huge rates for this huge amount of growth, which has alienated the customer base, and they're starting to hate on it. And you have to keep coming up with bigger and bigger expectations to keep justifying this valuation.
Yeah, we need a better term for this too, because when you hear the term like the AI bubble is going to pop, you picture like a little. Like you're blowing a bubble out of one of those little plastic things. It's a cute little boop. It's more like when Alderaan got destroyed in Star Wars, that's that kind of a pop. So yeah, I think it's going to pop, but I think it's a little more violent than the word pop implies.
And we've seen it before. This is the .com bust, right? It's that when the investors' money runs away, all those companies that don't have their money in place and don't have positive cash flow and so forth, they unravel fast.
We collectively forget everything. The internet was this thing that occurred after it seemed like the tech world had stabilized. It became like a mature business. And then it was like, oh my God, okay, we didn't get in on the PC boom. now we get this new thing. It's going to be awesome,
Yeah.
And then it's kind of settled down. Everyone has phones and the web's everywhere. We all have broadband, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, now it's AI. And it's like, nothing bad ever happened, right? By getting overly exuberant about this stuff, No,
and it's greed. You wanted your $1 billion win.
Yeah.
And a part of, I have to feel like part of the reason that Microsoft has presented the product this way, if they had just continued with the way they do their accounting, where you can't tell where any of the money comes from, but they were going to get this massive growth anyway and keep pressing revenue numbers, they could have been saying good news about Copilot the whole time, except that Satya wants to make AI his story.
Right. So Microsoft was this big, safe, successful company that was not generating headlines, was not exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he wanted to get in on that, which is understandable, right? I mean, to some degree, you're seeing these companies like Apple, Google, especially consumer side companies, just so newsworthy all the time. It's all anyone cares about. People used to talk about the biggest companies in tech, and they had these terms like now it's like Magnificent Seven, but whatever the previous term was, like the top 3, 4 terms. Microsoft wasn't even part of it, even though they were bigger than all of those companies, except for one. They were just like Oldsmobile. They were over there in the corner. Just nobody cares. So I get it, to some degree, but this is so exaggerated and unnecessary. It's too bad.
I mean, the good news you can say from the Microsoft perspective, maybe we'll play this if Amy Hood, is they have not leveraged at all. They've just spent cash, and they've mostly built data centers. Like they're in the place of the companies that built all the cables.
There's more to it than that. There's things like, this is an area I'm just not an expert in. I don't know enough, but it's the type of thing where for purposes of your accounting, meaning your quarterly reports, that you're spacing out the life cycle of whatever components on a basis that's about double the normal rate, and it makes it look better than it is. I mean, there are very real costs here.
Yeah.
And also I don't know if it's 2 quarters now, but at least 1 quarter, I think it was 2 quarters in a row now, they spent more on AI infrastructure than they earned in profits. So they've they're
starting to cut into the cash.
Yeah. Yep. No, as an investor,
but it's still cash.
No, I understand. But as a potential investor, there's different ways you can reward those people. And I think we're going to get to the point now where some are going to say, hey, why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. And this is a lot of cash heavy upfront infrastructure investment, whatever you want to call it.
And over cost, like they're spending more on it than they should.
Yeah, like this may not make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. To an investor, I mean.
Yeah. But they got nowhere else to go because the rest of the market is bad news.
It is, yeah. It is an astonishing reality of our industry that you see these kind of relationships all the time. Like Apple will do whatever they do in mobile and Google just copies it. Microsoft did whatever they're doing in AI. Now they're all doing the same thing in AI, and they're all copying each other. And it's and not just, I don't mean features, but just the way they're spending money.
Yeah.
There's this real almost irrational fear among these CEOs of these big companies that if they don't do exactly the same thing everyone else is doing, they're going to get left behind.
Well, and there's a case for that. The Google, Amazon, Microsoft have all built enough data centers that they've stretched out their lead compared to anybody else. That when this stupidity ends and you're sort of left with the pieces behind, it's still going to be unbreachable. They've now built a mold. Those three, and that's, what was the race? Make sure none of them got ahead of the other.
I write too much about this stuff to even remember when I wrote this, but at some point in the past, a year ago, maybe, I don't know. I made the case, the outcome of all this, regardless of what anyone thinks about AI or its efficacy, whatever, is going to be that when the dust settles, the top 5 companies in the world will still be the same top 5 companies in the world. And I think that was kind of their goal. And they'll have distanced
themselves from everyone else. It'll just be that much further away.
Yep.
Well, I'm betting on the success of AI, and I've put all my money into AI stocks. So.
Well, Leo, you're hallucinating. No,
I'm excited for you, Leo. This is going to be great.
No, I haven't. But it's almost impossible not to if you are buying index funds, which I am.
Yeah.
Because the S&P 500 is so dominated by the Magnificent Seven. So in effect, I am buying AI. But, I'm not buying gold or silver. I know a lot of people are. I'm not thinking that there's going to be a big crash. I think there's real value in AI.
No, there absolutely is. Yeah.
And I think there'll be, maybe. Why? Maybe there's a huge economic benefit to AI that will be, certainly some companies there'll be winners and losers. I'm not saying that, but I think the overall value creation from AI is dramatic, is more than the internet.
Might be a while to be realized. These things don't grow symmetrically. They grow and then they recover and tune and then they grow again.
Yeah, but this thing is not like those things. I think this thing is unique. But
that is definitely the way it's being sold, Leo.
Yeah, I know. And I'm buying it.
Yeah. He said that same thing about the internet back in 2000.
And I bought that. The other things. I invested my entire career and way of life into the success of computing, then the internet, and now AI.
And it took a few years. It took a correction.
Well, if you're impatient, of course. You know who lost money in the 1929 bust? The people who said, "Oh, I'm getting out." Yeah. They sold at the bottom.
Right, yes, of course. Yep. Yeah, no,
and these are typically people who were leveraged. And
don't misunderstand.
It was because of leveraging. A lot of them had to.
AI is real, and it is going to be a big deal. And we're going to look back, and maybe not us, but a future generation will look back and say, "I can't believe there were human beings who sat in front of a computer and wrote news stories," or whatever it is. The things that we're so excited about.
I think that's going to happen this year.
Yep, that's what. But the people who are doing those jobs. In other words, like. If some scientist came up with fusion energy or something, we didn't need fossil fuel or any kind of fuel, there'd be all kinds of job loss. But
it's a disruptive force. I'm not denying that. And if I were in college today, I would not be studying Python or coding. That would be a foolish thing to do.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
It's hard. We're living in it. It's hard to say.
I studied Chinese in college. That actually turned out to be smart, but about 30 years ahead of time.
Right.
So,
if you asked a stagecoach driver in 1888 about his feelings on trains and planes and whatever else, he would have negative feelings about these things.
I'm starting a buggy whip factory because I think the future's in buggy whips. And
I'm going to go right for steel. I think steel and oil.
Steel and oil.
Futures.
We live in uncertain times. That's the one certainty is that we are in a very disruptive time. And I think all sorts of things are going to happen. And I'm just praying that my retirement funds survive.
Right. Me. Well, you may not need retirement funds. I just learned. Apparently, AI is going to be so awesome, we won't even need that money.
Yeah, we'll never have to work again.
Honestly, what you should do is just spend it now because you definitely aren't going to need it later. That's some good advice.
Okay. I'm buying that boat.
You're like, yay.
Yay. Hey, let's take a break because I do want to do an ad, and then we will come back. We're going to talk about Windows stuff, including Patch Tuesday. You're watching Windows Weekly with these two guys, these lucky guys who are in Acapulco, Mexico. Mr. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. Our show today brought to you by Zscaler. Zscaler actually is the world's largest cloud security platform. And one of the things that they have understood, I think very well, is that as we were just talking, there are pluses and minuses to AI. The potential rewards for AI to your business are too great to ignore, but so are the risks. And the risks are multifarious, partly from bad guys who are using AI to attack you in vigorous ways that they have never had before, but also through the risk of using AI in your business, the loss of sensitive data. People are attacking enterprise managed AI as well, trying to get information out of it, right? You don't want proprietary information to be leaking out of your company. So generative AI increases the opportunities for threat actors. It helps them to rapidly create phishing lures, write malicious code to automate data extraction. And using AI can cause problems for you. There were 1.3 million instances of social security numbers leaked to AI applications, not through malicious activity, but through inadvertency, through user error. ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot last year saw nearly 3.2 million data violations. There is a solution, a modern approach, Zscaler's Zero Trust plus AI. With Zero Trust, you eliminate your attack surface. You can secure your data everywhere, cloud, on-prem. It safeguards your use of public and private AI, and it protects you against ransomware and those AI-powered phishing attacks. You don't have to take my word for it. Just check out what Shiva, the Director of Security and Infrastructure at Zuora, says about using Zscaler.
AI provides tremendous opportunities, but it also brings tremendous security concerns when it comes to data privacy and data security. The benefit of Zscaler with ZIA rolled out for us right now is giving us the insights of how our employees are using various Gen AI tools. So ability to monitor the activity, make sure that what we consider confidential and sensitive information according to companies' data classification does not get fed into the public LLM models, etc.
With Zero Trust plus AI, you can thrive in the AI era, you can stay ahead of the competition, and you can remain resilient even as threats and risks evolve. Learn more at zscaler.com/security. That's zscaler.com/security. We thank them so much for their support. zscaler.com/security. We appreciate your support by going to that address so they know you saw it here. Back to Acapulco and the latest on Patch Tuesday.
At the end of the show, we're going to dive off a cliff.
Oh, that's right. Isn't that where the cliff divers?
This is where the cliff divers are. Yeah, we were at the Mirador yesterday.
They still do it.
They still do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's probably not the same ones that did it before.
They're pretty young.
Yeah,
they did.
It's a young man's job.
It's a young man's game.
As Norm Macdonald observed, you're either an expert cliff diver or you're stuff on a rock.
Wow.
These guys all did a great job and then came up for their tips because they're no fools.
Yes. So was it yesterday? It was Patch Tuesday. I guess it was yesterday. Huh?
Yes, it was. Yeah. If you didn't notice this, you didn't miss anything. If you think back to December, we never had preview updates. Microsoft was off the second half of the month. So this month's Patch Tuesday was just bug and security fixes. Nothing major in my opinion, but whatever. Anyway, I did the whole reboot thing, see if anything changed, blah, blah, blah. I didn't see anything.
It's still a spinning icon in my sys tray, but okay.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Now that you say it's all right, I guess I'll do it.
Well, this is on one computer. I usually have more systems.
You're used to wrecking more machines than that at once.
Yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
So we'll have more. I mean, this year, I'm sure will be just as big as last year. We'll see what happens.
Just wondering when all the reorging that's happened with Pavan and so forth starts to affect this flow.
It's hard to
take a while.
Yeah. You might make the argument that the agentic stuff that they announced for Windows, that was the big controversy ahead of Ignite, might be the big focus this year. And whether or not that turns into a new version of Windows, I guess, is probably the big Windows story of 2026, and we'll see what happens. But we did get a new build for dev and beta, so the first of 2026, some Copilot related features, whatever. Nothing, I guess, super dramatic. Although if you really follow this stuff closely, you might know that if you have a Copilot Plus PC, you can get image descriptions through Narrator. They're bringing that to all PCs with Copilot. So it's going to be cloud-powered instead of local, right? Which is maybe speaks to that every PC is an AI PC. So I could be wrong. No, I am wrong. Well, no, I could be wrong. But I think this is the first example of a Copilot Plus PC feature that was exclusive coming to all PCs. We've seen the reverse. There was a set of AI features for Notepad that were about writing, summary, et cetera, that are cloud-based. But if you have a Copilot Plus PC, you can actually do that locally as well. So they've gone in the other direction with that one feature. I think this might be the first example of that happening. So maybe there'll be more of that. We'll see. But it's not even as funny. Laurent didn't even really write this for some reason. But the bigger thing to me about this new set of builds is that Microsoft specifically used the term window, which I enjoy because I invented it, and said that you're on a timer now. So at some point, dev and beta are going to diverge again, and dev will be on 20. They didn't say this, but it'll be 26H1, which right now is Canary only, I believe. So these things are going to diverge. Although, again, it probably won't matter because they're all getting the same features, right? So no big deal. And let me make sure this is next. Yes. Some hardware-related stuff. We already covered the Dell thing, but IDC came out with their numbers for 2025 PC sales. And remember, they had warned couple of weeks ago, back in December, I guess, that 2026 was going to be kind of iffy. So the fourth quarter of last year and then all of last year were good for the PC market. Not double-digit increases per se, but 8% for the year, 9.6% for the quarter, which now they're saying might have been better because of the memory problems that are going to be the big issue this year, because people were starting to buy PCs, companies were anyway, or companies and or people, ahead of expected price increases in 2026. So I usually do a big roundup of stuff in January about PC stuff, but PC sales rather. I'll do that when Gartner weighs in. But for now, what IDC is saying, 285 million PCs sold, up 88%, like I said, for the year. Lenovo's number one by far, 71 million units for the year, 25% market share roughly. HP, Dell, Apple, Asus, right? So that's all the same as before. Apple's market share, for people who care about this, is 9%, which it was a year ago as well. So they're doing fine, but I mean, I think people have this idea that Apple's like outselling the rest of the market. Somehow that's not the case.
They're just making very good machines, but they priced accordingly and they sell a small portion of the market. Yep. The other part is that most PCs aren't sold by selection by consumers. They're sold to businesses who are buying them on lease as part of a pattern of purchasing that goes back decades.
Yep. We've never had a firm grasp of what the percentages are. I think we're still working on that rough 2/3 to 1/3 thing, but it might be different now. It's hard to say. And I did that bit about Dell earlier. I kind of mentioned this in passing. Some PC makers split it out and you can see what the differences are. Some do not. So it's kind of hard to say. But the big thing here is that IDC is warning for this year that things are going to be volatile. In fact, I think they use the term extremely volatile. So it seems like an unnecessary escalation of that term, but it's an explosive. So they see higher prices, potential for lower starting RAM configurations where you have to pay extra to get the acceptable amount of RAM. Slower growth. Obviously, they do still see growth.
No, they would be irresponsible to say anything other than that. In this tariff regime, in this product availability regime, how can you guarantee sales of any kind? You don't.
Yeah.
So extreme volatility.
I think the only big impact here is honestly for the DIY types, the people who build their own computers.
Yes, sir.
That's going to be a real cost.
Yeah. I'm really glad I got my machines done when I did. Really glad.
But I think for the majority of people, or maybe companies, but people certainly who buy a computer this coming year, this is not something they're going to understand as a year-over-year increase. You only buy a computer every several years, right? So the cost is what it is. I think about the computers that I reviewed last year, and maybe the cheapest was in the $600 range or something, and the most expensive was the price of a Tesla. But a $700 computer versus a $650 computer, it's like whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I saw a DIY of a guy who was taking old DIMMs and taking soldering sodium chips onto them.
Please.
That's such a bad idea. Don't do that. How can I bought this incredibly unreliable
ThinkPad a month ago with 32 gigs of RAM. It was about $2,000. OLED screen.
Right.
That seems
it's going to be good for a long time.
Yeah.
The reality is, we're also special cases in some ways, right? All of it. The people listening to the show, right? Mm-hmm. And us, we gravitate toward the most powerful configurations, the most RAM, the most storage, et cetera. If you think about computers that today would be almost several years old, like a 13th gen Intel Core computer, whatever it is, with 16 gigs of RAM or whatever kind of storage, like the RAM that would be slower than the RAM you could buy in the very latest computer, storage that was smaller and slower than the very best computer you might buy today. That's a perfectly good, aside from the Intel part of it, a perfectly good computer for most people today.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's a big market for this stuff or anything. I don't think they're selling this, but lower end configurations are probably okay for a lot of people. So
I live in the Lenovo subreddit, and everybody's buying used ThinkPads.
Yes.
Or actually, it's the ThinkPad subreddit. And they, you go on your eBay, A lot of companies sell them after a few years.
You still buy the butterfly keyboard that old, or
not that old? No, but you can get a really nice Lenovo. Yeah. If you probably, it's going to have 16 gigs of RAM probably. You could put Windows on
which,
it.
I think for most people is great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You still get the great keyboard. I think OLED, I'm kind of a fan of OLED screens now. I don't think I would buy a IPS screen anymore.
I do. I like them too, but all you're doing, you got to think about people who aren't on a computer all day long.
Right.
And they open it because they need the screen size. And maybe they're doing a spreadsheet or writing something. I don't think the OLED thing's a big deal for them. If you're living on a computer,
that's my problem.
Or you're a gamer.
Mm-hmm. I live on my computer.
Well, I mean, I'm on the computer. This is my primary interaction with technology, right? As a computer. Yeah. So I care about these things, but I feel like it's a secondary device for most people. So it may not be as important. I know it's better for PC makers too, higher margins, et cetera, but.
Well, it's just another incentive for the bubble to burst. It's for all that over ordering of stuff for data centers to go away and part supply to come back.
That is a big concern. You brought that up. You brought that up several times. And now with the new Vera Rubin platform from NVIDIA, which they announced at CES, that's 10 times more efficient. There's going to be all this incentive to say, oh, well, I don't need those Blackwells anymore. The good news is the reseller market, you might be able to put together, last year's AI PC for a lot less.
Well, so I was asking you, so what's going to happen after the AI bubble bursts? I suspect GPUs will be cheaper.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe Windows will actually be able to use a GPU for Windows. Wouldn't that be something?
And they'll be turning those data centers into malls. So that's good.
Well, I think they need those data centers either way, whether they're running AI workloads or not. Buildings. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people forget that this is the internet. This is everything we do. This is the cloud. It's not just
concrete
AI.
structures with power and water that, it's still utility compute. This is the sprint to cement utility compute.
Exactly.
We just wrapped it in an AI.
That's what we want.
There's a way to get there.
This is what happens when you say to the cloud.
Sure.
Without anybody actually having a plan. But
without even understanding what that means.
You got to have a cloud. That's the,
Yep. Well, into every life, a little rain must fall. And that comes
as long as it falls on the golf courses. That's what I care.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So, speaking of stupid and MPUs and AI and all that stuff, I've been using this Panther Lake-based laptop for the past month. Right?
Ooh, a CPU assembled in the U.S.
Yeah, supposedly. 64 gigs of RAM, which I have to think is not going to be a common configuration in 2026. Whatever. So this thing has slightly improved CPU, I should say, a vastly improved GPU, and a good NPU. Really good. Not that we use those for anything, but it's there if you need it. So to me, the big thing is I fell for this when Lunar Lake was announced at IFA 2024. It came out strong, Intel did. And I thought, here we go. They're doing it. They're turning around. And the next year was a disaster of reliability problems. And the other big thing on Lunar Lake that maybe doesn't get enough press, unless you're AMD or Snapdragon or Qualcomm, because they can't stop talking about this, is that when you unplug the power from these things, the performance drops off a cliff. And so you have that kind of combination of chips that are designed only for laptops that don't work well on battery, and had pretty good battery life improvements, decent compute and graphic improvements, but still massive reliability issues, right? And so what's the story with Panther Lake? I can't really say that this is a fact at this point. I only have one of these things. I need multiple computers. Some of the stuff I'm seeing might be from the PC maker. One thing that is unique about this laptop is I could crank up whatever Call of Duty game and play for an hour, and you don't hear the fan, which is unbelievable. Like
nice.
That's almost magic. I mean, that doesn't happen. But I also open the lid and it doesn't come on, and that's something I'm very familiar with Intel computers. So there's that reliability kind of thing too. My initial battery life stuff is not great. I didn't even write about that. It's just too early. It's not fair to even talk about it, but I'm going to have to see more. I need more experience with more computers before I can be fully sure what's happening here. But initially, I will say the GPU advantages are real. Like it's big. It's approaching dedicated graphics territory, and that's interesting. It's actually better than AMD, which is unexpected. And they're super proud of that. And maybe they should be. It seems like that stuff's good. But even then, there's weirdness going on because they're using AI to do frame generation. There's stuff going on with the drivers that will enable and improve that over time. There are utilities on PCs, including Intel's with their graphics drivers. They have their own utility, but then like HP, which this has their own software, and these things are all trying to improve the performance of games, right? And the quality of games. So this is a lot like the super resolution stuff you see on Windows and ARM computers today, where the native resolution of this computer is something like 2880 by 1800 or something like that. The game says that it's running at that native resolution, but it's actually running it under full HD. But it's doing the upscale stuff, right? Which has been common in gaming for a while, but is now being pretty dramatically increased because of AI, I guess, and just whatever chip capabilities. So you run these games at lower res, but it looks beautiful. And I will say this is as good as this game has ever looked off of dedicated graphics. The performance is incredible. I can't explain this one, but it seems to work really well on battery, which I would normally not do because I'm not an idiot, but you could do that if you wanted to. And it's good, but it's Intel, right? So there's all these caveats. If you look at the grid of Core Ultra Series 3 chips, which is this family of chips, I believe there are, I'm just going to throw out the number, this could be wrong, but like 18 of them. Only 3 of them have the latest graphics, or maybe 4. Like most of them just have, it's not I don't know that it's
That's
previous
confusing.
gen, but it's super confusing. And there are 2 tiers of the new graphics engine. So when they talk about these graphics improvements, when you see all the charts and all the numbers they have are all based on you having the very highest end version of this thing, which is only, I think, on 2 or 3 of those chips. So when you buy a computer this year and you're getting like Intel Core Ultra Series 3, you're like, I did it. You're like, not necessarily. There's a pretty good chance you're not getting those graphics. You have to buy one of the really highest end chips to get it. Which, if you cared about the stuff, you would, right? You would take the time. But you have to be careful about the stuff because the vast majority of the stuff they're selling is not that. But
now I want to check and see, what did I just buy?
Well, the one you have is the previous gen, right? So you have you have a Lunar Lake.
Yeah.
It's Lunar Lake. So I don't have to worry so much as that.
You don't have to worry about it. It is what it is. They don't have this kind of thing with it. There's so many tiers of this stuff. It's very confusing.
It's confusing.
Yep. But I do. This one does happen to have that chip, or the highest end chip.
Of course, they're going to only send you the good one. They're not going to send you
That's the thing, right?
The slow one.
But again, this is the difference between what an enthusiast might want and what a typical consumer would want. If someone just buying a laptop doesn't even understand these generations and the different chips and whatever.
Yeah, I didn't understand them.
It's confusing. Even people who know what they're talking about find it confusing. It is confusing.
Mine's a Ultra 7 258V.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
So the 2 in the number tells you it's Lunar Lake. That's the 2.v. V is Lunar Lake as well. Is that gen, right?
Okay.
So 2 and it's second gen. It's Lunar Lake. This is the mobile Intel chipset, right? I don't know. I need more of these things. But here's the 2 big takeaways for me are: I open the lid, nothing happens. That's not great.
Oh, that's not great.
But
is that Windows or is that the laptop?
Performance is crazy. Like, it's good.
Yeah. And battery life?
I can't say yet. It's been all over the map. I have never seen anything extraordinarily good, I'll tell you that. So if you kind of accept the rough high level view that you're going to get 11 to 12 hours on Snapdragon and you're going to get 8 to 9 on AMD and you're going to get 7 to 8 on Intel, it's that or less. It's in there.
Yeah.
The other concern is whether or not they're going to have the same problem on battery. And this is something I didn't see that in the game, but I've only looked at that a little bit. And so one of the things they were talking about at their introduction was they have more E cores, which is the efficient cores. That's what's responsible for that performance drop off. But then again, it's been another year. Maybe they were optimizing things for that. I know they worked with game makers, literally hundreds of games, to make sure that these things ran great on this processor. So maybe if you're playing games, you won't see it as much. But if you were trying to think what you might be doing, like a normal kind of workload, you're in Word, Excel, web browsing, maybe then you would see it. I don't know. I it's just too soon. I can't rule on this, so to speak. But the game stuff is good. So that is good. So we got that going for us.
It looks like it's sitting on a pretty hefty little wedge there.
What is?
The Omnibook.
The laptop. It has that sort of plinth effect, or the platform underneath.
It's super thin. This particular computer, they did something with the cooling system.
What is this?
Yeah. Well, that's just the speaker. I was just trying to show the speaker.
Yeah, but
it's like a downwards firing speaker. But yeah, I mean, I have it here in front of me. I don't know if you can. I think I showed.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's the trick.
It is very thin.
Okay. It's just the picture.
I think that's just the photo angle makes it look vast.
I just wanted to.
No, it's
have
very
one
thin.
photo of the bottom.
That's like all the Omnibooks are really thin. They're nice. I like them.
Yeah, this is.
But it is undercut. Like it does seem like it's
yes, and that's very common.
And I equate this to my Surface Studio 2, which literally has this platform that it sits on. So it has these vents where it's dumping very hot air out of it right now.
So this one, it's the intake is on the bottom, very traditional.
Yeah. Oh, so this is actually a wedge that's just lifting it up.
It's psychological too. I think,
but you can
makes it feel thinner.
That's not hot.
No,
it's not hot at all.
Try this. Put your hand beside this thing.
Yeah, that's night and day. I mean, that's
crazy.
That's Acapulco. This is the Arctic.
This thing warps the cases on my phones. Ask me how I know, right? Like it's
what
so
is that?
hot.
What is that laptop, Richard?
This is the Studio 2 with the 4060 in it. This is all the 4060 heat running out.
Oh yeah, it's the GPU. Sure.
Yeah. That's basically a desktop.
And you're not even gaming on that thing. What are you doing?
No. This is just running the two screens and the camera, invariably
You're streaming.
And the fans aren't cranking. Like this will get loud if I do game on it. But this is enough that the air is genuinely hot coming out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you play games on a computer, you understand this thing's going to sound like a jet engine.
Yeah.
It's just normal.
And you've got your headphones in, so you don't care. You make everybody else sad. But that's
this one, though, it's notable. I'm not saying obviously the fans are kicking in, it's doing something, right? But it is not loud.
Whoever did the fan design on this one is smart.
This is something very good going on here. So we'll see, Lenovo, other companies are going to make these computers as well.
Well, the Studio 2, they chose to make optional and GPUs, right? And I took one of the really high-end ones, and I think so this one runs hotter than some of the others would. But it has loosened the case on this phone, and this is the second time it's done it.
So I mean, it's like you have like a big block 8-cylinder engine, and this thing is
I'm occasionally shocked that it roars at me.
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this is related to nothing, and we talked about Dell. So I had that.
We did the Dell story,
the other hardware story there, but. Just as a reminder, I didn't know where else to put this. They announced this last fall. We would have talked about it at the time, but
we did.
On March 9th, Microsoft will end of life Microsoft Lens.
Is he just going to pull it from the store?
Yeah, they're going to pull it from the store on February 9th, and then it will lose its abilities to scan on March 9th.
Oh, interesting, because it does talk to OneDrive, so they're actively killing it.
Yep.
Interesting.
I mean, these capabilities are built into the Copilot app, probably the Copilot 365 app, or whatever it's called.
I mean, let's face it. Any picture you take now of something like a whiteboard or a receipt or anything, it's just normal for any photo app on any device to just straighten.
Yeah, when this thing debuted, and Google had a version which was called Google Lens, actually.
Yeah.
The ability to take a picture of if you're a business traveler and you have to send in your receipts. You take it it's on the table, it's at an angle, whatever, but it will straighten it out and, cut it, crop it and all that. Like that was magical, 10, 15 years ago, but today it's very common. So we all have something on our phone that does this. It's not a huge deal, but. Yeah.
Let's pause so that we can recalibrate.
For a moment of silence and/or prayer.
I'm going to need a moment at some point to go get the tequila, which is in the fridge.
Okay. This would be a moment.
We'll do that in the next break.
Well, the next break's not very long.
It's possible we drank too much of it yesterday, but there's some left.
It's only for the back of the book, so we'll do it before the back of the book.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a nice long break there. Okay, good.
Just need long enough to run over, grab the booze.
So, okay, a little teaser, maybe not whiskey this week on the show.
Same thing happened last year.
We'll tease the fact that it is a formally brown liquor.
Yeah, there's a good one. It was formally brown.
It was brown in its youth.
That is true. Yeah.
It has that skin condition thing, and now it's lighter colored.
It's been sitting in the sun. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
It was aged in wood.
Oh, yum. I love that woody flavor in my tequila. Lisa's funny. She orders margaritas, and she always says, I want the top shelf margarita, but she always wants it with a Blanco. And they always say, we give you the Reposado. We give you the Añejo because it's more expensive. It's fancier. She says, no, I don't want the smoky flavor. I just want Blanco.
Right, well, Lisa's might want to watch this.
We're going to go down that whole story.
Oh, good. I'll tell Lisa.
It's going to be right in her wheelhouse.
Yeah. And she's a margarita fan. Our
Margaritas
show
are your friend.
Yes. Well, they're my friend. I don't know about Lisa. Sometimes she has regrets. The episode you're watching of Windows Weekly, I'll tell you what, if Lisa's had a few too many, there's nothing better than falling backwards onto our beautiful Helix Sleep mattress. How about that for a segue, ladies and gentlemen? Our sponsor for this segment. We got this Helix Sleep. When did we get it? 6 months ago. We realized I had been looking around, and I saw that it's considered by most experts that you should trade in your mattress, get a new one after 6 to 10 years, because mattresses wear, they get, and they get saggy. They don't. So I thought, well, it's time for us to buy a new mattress. And we said, we got to do some research. We looked at all the reviews, all the magazines. We looked everywhere. We looked at reviews in the consumer reviews, and we found, I think, the best mattress we've ever had. Are you preparing for the colder season, maybe spending more time indoors? Isn't this a good time to invest in a new mattress? People think, I'm the same way with the computers. The user interface, the screen and the keyboard are what you're spending time with. You spend 8 to 10 hours a day, for me, it's more like 12, on your mattress. Not just sleeping, but relaxing, reading, cuddling up with the pets. Why not have a nice, invest in something for yourself, a comfortable mattress with your Helix mattress. And I got to tell you, no more night sweats. It sleeps beautifully cool. No back pain because it's not saggy. It's supportive. No motion transfer. I used to, the old mattress, the cat would jump on the bed. I'd say, earthquake. No more. Don't settle for a mattress made overseas with low quality and questionable materials and then shipped for 6 months in a container ship, and it smells like bunker fuel number 2 when you open the box. No, don't get that. Get the Helix mattress, which is assembled, packaged, and shipped from Arizona. That beautiful desert air. Within days of placing your order, they make them to order. So it's fresh, brand new, and it's so nice. Well, you could do what we do too, which is take the Helix Sleep Quiz, which asks you your sleeping style, what kind of mattress you prefer. It'll match you up because they have a broad range of choices with the perfect mattress based on your preferences, your sleep needs. I got to tell you, my deep sleep score has gone straight up. My sleep, quality has gone straight up. If actually Wesper did a sleep study, Helix commissioned a sleep study with Wesper to measure this. They measured the sleep performance of participants after switching from their old mattress, like we did, to a Helix mattress. And here's what we found. 82% of participants saw an increase in their deep sleep cycle. That's the most important one, right? You only spend maybe half an hour a day in deep sleep, but you got to have that deep sleep. But what if you could increase the amount? Participants on average achieved 25 more minutes of deep sleep a night. That's like, for many of you, a 50% increase or more. For me, it was that. What a difference that makes the next day. Participants on average achieved 39 more minutes of total sleep, overall sleep per night. Nice. Time and time again, Helix Sleep is the most awarded mattress brand from the experts at Forbes and Wired and all of the brands. Helix delivers your mattress right to your door, free shipping in the U.S., and the rest is easy. You don't have to rely. You can relax. They got seamless returns and exchanges if you want something different, or you're unhappy, but you won't be, you're going to love it. That's why they have the Happy with Helix guarantee, which guarantees a risk-free customer-first experience. I want you to go to helixsleep.com/windows for 20% off site-wide during their New Year sale extended. That's helixsleep.com/windows for 20% off the New Year sale extended. This offer ends January 15th. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. And if you're listening after the sale ends, still check them out at helixsleep.com/windows. helixsleep.com/windows. We love our Helix Sleep mattress. We really do. helixsleep.com/windows. Thank you, Helix. Now back to...
Are we going to talk about AI?
Yeah, I thought we should.
So far.
No,
Well, here's the thing. I feel like the rest of the tech world is ignoring this topic. So
that's about time. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, someone's going to talk about it.
I'm glad you brought this up. I'm really excited.
We're just glossing over the top of it. You know, we're not going to go into every little stupid story about AI. But
you want me to do? I did 20 minutes on Security Now yesterday about how I vibe coded this app. You want me to do that for you? No. Anybody?
Let's see how it goes.
It's cool out there, Leo. I'm impressed by it.
If we can get there organically, I mean, maybe.
No, that's all right. You can, because I will tell anybody. I've been telling people at the grocery store. I've been telling everybody.
I just like that it's in the style you like, right?
Yeah, that's the point. It's exactly what I didn't want to.
You got your 80 by 25 screen back. I'm just surprised you use more colors than green.
Oh, dude, I'm 2 seconds away from joining you in the same space. I might literally start using that Microsoft text editor.
Yeah.
In command line
just
mode.
to demouse yourself.
It's, what happened is I got the Emacs bug. And once I got Emacs, everything. In fact, I probably should have just done this in Emacs.
All I need is it's Markdown. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Emacs
my whole life is
Markdown. Yeah. Emacs invented Markdown. They have org mode preceded Markdown, and it's very similar.
Yeah, right. I guess right. I know there were
yogurt, right? They also invented yogurt.
Emacs invented yogurt and wearing socks with sandals. Many people don't know that. Yeah. On we go. Let's talk about AI, please.
So after months of speculation, Google and Apple have finally partnered on something. It's good to see these two guys getting together. So Apple is going to use Gemini for Siri and to train or for their foundational models. I don't know if it's just for training or help them build their foundational models, but even more than maybe we thought was going to happen. There are some rumors around this, like there won't be any, Gemini or Google branding anywhere, blah, 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 whatever. We don't know about that stuff, but I believe the first way we're going to see this will be March or April when whatever it is, iOS 26.4 probably comes out. And then, of course, there'll be more, I'm sure, in the summer when they do WWDC and then the next release of iOS and the other.
This is the real fallout of Gemini 3, is they finally impressed Apple.
Yeah. I mean, they looked at ChatGPT. They looked at Anthropic Cloud. There was a rumor or a story that maybe Anthropic wanted too much money. They might have overreached. It's hard to say. Google always seemed like the natural partner here.
Yeah, because they've already got the relationship, but they got to bet on the winning horse. So, of course,
they got to do something that actually works. Yeah.
Yep. Because their stuff clearly.
I think that may also, we talked a lot about this on Mac Break Weekly. I think that also probably has something to do with how easy it will be to integrate Siri with the Gemini models. Remember, they're just taking the models and putting them on their own servers. You won't have to talk.
That's a big part of it. Yeah, the private cloud compute stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think
this is. I'm not the biggest Apple fan, but the notion that Apple will sort of on your behalf anonymize this stuff and whatever, there's something to be said for this. This is interesting. So I'm curious. But yeah, this was, if you're going to bet money on this was the most likely outcome, right? Like every time.
And I mean, again, I appreciate Gemini 3 is the point where you go, okay, all these folks are competitive with each other. Any one of them could be deleted any time.
Yep.
Pick the one you're most comfortable with.
Yep. Yeah. They're right in the mix now. So they're good. Samsung talked about a sponsored report, but really this was a survey just of some of the uses in the US. And basically what it boiled down to is most people don't think they're using any AI on their phone, and almost everyone is every single day. It's like, right. So they kind of spelled out like where AI is being used the most by, this is US users, but Samsung flagship phones. But, weather alerts, call screening, autocorrect, voice assistance, auto brightness, and then all the camera features, right? Night mode, auto-generated slideshows, et cetera. So this is kind of the antidote to the anecdote. Is that a term? That's a good term. I like it. It's like factoid. Sort of an anecdote to the Dell story, right? It's like a company that's actually selling, hundreds of millions of these things every year is like, actually people using this stuff a lot. The thing is they don't think they are. They don't understand that they are. But that's the point, when things just work, you don't think about it. There's just a feature. It's kind of boring, maybe. It just works. I mean, very rarely would someone do something on any device and it does what they expect and they tweet about it or something. They're like, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to work, So anyway, Samsung obviously also all in on AI. I don't know what to say about this one. It's like Microsoft has added a feature called Checkout to Copilot that will allow it to shop for items for you, which I think we all know is kind of inevitable and also more than kind of scary. Because, Copilot can't even add 3 and 3 together, so I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I'm not going to be trying this. They're probably going to have plugins or whatever they're calling them, connections, right, for different retailers. They already have some of those, like anthropology, which I love I love that word. Mm-hmm. It's an apology for all of my ancestors. Nice. Ashley Furniture, Etsy, etc. And then in even scarier news related to this, OpenAI launched a health experience in ChatGPT. And this maybe inarguably is the scariest potential use case for AI and hallucinations, right?
It's funny. As soon as OpenAI announced this, Google announced it. And then Anthropic announced it. So they're all going to do it. This
is exactly what's happened. This is that industry in a nutshell. Exactly. Yeah. What are they doing? Yeah, we're doing that too.
It's all fungible, and that's, so I did upgrade to the Claude Max $250 a month. Wow. Well, I'm using it so much. Yeah. But the thing is, it's fungible. So tomorrow I could say, yeah, no more of that. I'm going to go to Codex or OpenAI or whatever. So you just use what's best for the moment. That's why Apple kind of saying, we're going to use Gemini is like, well, it's a little risky. It may not be the best next week.
For all the complaining about subscription services, which is a very valid complaint, the one thing that's pretty much universal is that you can go in and out on a monthly basis, right? And so if you're paying too much this month for whatever it is, Netflix, Spotify, whatever, you can just leave, right? Come back 2 months later, whatever it is, like that's
or if nice. I don't use it as much as I thought I might,
you can just say, well, I'm done. You're not paying for a year, right?
Yeah, exactly.
With if you sign up for Adobe CC today, any of the tiers, and you pay them, you can leave early, but you have to pay the remainder of the year,
right?
So that first year you're paying for a year.
Yeah.
So that is not like the other things. This is like that. So yeah, if you find out that it says you have cancer and you don't, you can just quit. It's no problem. So
what I like about it, and this is what OpenAI is doing, is it will integrate, because it's for the iOS initially, it will integrate with all the Apple Health stuff. So I wear an Oura Ring. I have a continuous glucose monitor. I have a Withings scale. I have all of these, quantified self BS, but it will all go into the database. So,
honestly, that is, and that's what people are going to want. I mean, that's.
And I know a lot of people who get their lab results and
and then you have to wait on some conversation with your doctor. It's like,
and doctors aren't very good.
Get some information right away.
Who was it?
No, it's very easy to criticize. I made fun of it right up top, right? But the reality is a lot of people are already using these things for this. They will continue to do so. So it's fine. My issue is the thing you just mentioned reminds me of the situation with smart homes. So we have things like Matter, especially right now, which is a nice standard. And so there's a lot of good interoperability where you can use devices that previously only worked in certain ecosystems, but you can use them together in whatever ecosystem you choose. It's nice. But there's always these exceptions. There's especially smart speakers are a good example where those things are very specific to an ecosystem. You can't use Google Nest smart speakers in Apple Home or whatever, and vice versa. Health is like that, and hopefully this will be the great equalizer where we see that same kind of
Did you see
nearly full interoperability.
It was the CEO of who was it? A Shopify, Toby Luke, who went home after a doctor's visit with a bunch of MRI scans, and he said, I wanted to understand it better, so I used Claude.
Yep.
To take the DICOM files he got from the MRI he says, my annual MRI scan gives me a USB stick with the data, but you need this commercial Windows software to open it. I ran Claude on the stick and asked it to make me an HTML-based viewer tool. It looks better than the Windows software.
Nice.
And he then said, okay, well, what's that? And they said, oh yeah, that's your seventh vertebrae. That's where you've got the compression. That's your L3 to L5. Right. I mean,
yep.
This is what I'm talking about, ultra personalized software.
Yeah.
People are so much required now to buy a package have a package.
The fundamental, I'm trying to say a difference or whatever, or it's not advantage, but the fundamental change here is intent. Mm-hmm. You go to the system, whatever it is, however you interact with it, you speak, type, whatever, and you say, this is what I want. It's not like the old days being like the past 50 years, right? Yeah. Where you had to understand commands and how they worked, or you had to understand the UI, what to click and where to go. And you can see the hand holding over time, Microsoft Office, the Word, et cetera, added that kind of search box at the top where you could ask it a question and it would tell you where to go, right, to find that thing. Or it would just do it for you in line. But now it's like we don't really care about the app. In the sense that I might use 8 or 10% of Word's features, probably less. I could now say to it, I just need that thing.
Yeah. This is the next stage from search, right? So everybody got trained on how to Google stuff. And over time, most of us got good at Googling. And we
did because they made it worse, so that you had to try harder.
But we learned how to interact. Skill.
No, I mean, I'm not being funny. It's real.
So this is the next. So what it really is somehow communicating with a device. Help me understand this, or let me get more information on this. And so what Luckey says is, this is a good example of what I mean with reflexively reaching for AI. You tinker with AI for a while.
Right.
And you just reach for this. This was an obvious thing to try when I saw I needed to use Windows and I was on my Mac. You want to train your brain on this intuition. You want to start thinking this way. Because you do have now a tool. Maybe it's not perfect, and I know hallucinations, blah, blah, blah. But it's like learning how to Google right. Google gives you stupid results too.
We used to be way worse at it. We've just forgotten how much we've learned.
Right, we learned how to do it.
Google.
Yeah, I think that's the next step on this is learning how to interact. Basically, I think of AI as an interface to computing and the internet, and it's an interface between me and natural speech and getting what we want done.
Google kind of gathered the world's information, but AI is making sense of it.
Plus, this wouldn't exist if we hadn't spent the last 40 years putting everything on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, we now have this incredibly massive repository, better than any library, of information. Admittedly, some of it's wrong, dumb.
Yeah, I feel bad that you feel the need to qualify that. And I think the reason you do is because so many people bitch and moan every time someone ever talks about AI. Well, what about the hallucinations?
Oh, there are AI haters out there. There really are.
It's too much. It's just so much noise. We get it.
Yeah, and
I'm just thinking you found a way around HIPAA. HIPAA's rules are pretty straight about companies can't sell your healthcare data to other companies.
Yeah.
But if you loop AI in and you give permission, then it's your data that you're selling to the other companies. So HIPAA solved.
Well, okay, so here, I don't know how Lutke did it, but the way I would have done it is not send that MRI data to the cloud, but ask Claude to write me a program that I am running locally that will interpret that. Yeah. And I think that's what he did. He wrote an HTML browser of that data. So that data is not being sent to.
He did have the data locally. I mean, I know
but now that's not what ChatGPT is going to do with your health information.
No, of course not. No, not at all. But
it's going to have to send it to the cloud.
This is this is how this stuff evolves. We're going to have these local capabilities that will be good enough. It will be good.
And I think for the doubters and haters, I understand, and you know what, you're entitled to your opinion. But if you don't, if you're not yet at that point, you might think about what would be the value of getting to know this and getting these intuitions. And for me, it's been incredible. It's a journey,
right?
But it's been very, very valuable. I still like to
your
write
role
code.
has not changed. You are on the leading edge of this stuff.
That's
You're
what I do.
Experimenting with it. You're doing it when maybe a lot of
That's what I did with the internet.
Not.
That's what I did with PCs.
By the time they get there,
right,
it will be better. Right, it will be more accurate. Whatever you want it, whatever your concerns are. So yeah, I mean, to me, not a lot has changed. But I just, when the first electronic spreadsheets appeared, the people who needed that stuff thought it was the greatest thing in the world. But I'm sure there were these mathematicians over in the corner going, "But what about my job? I write this stuff on a board." What about your job? I don't know. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, your job now might be to get better at intermediating between AI and humans, or using AI, or I don't know. There's
to me, this is just new capabilities that make it so much easier to do things that I was never going to learn how to do in the first place. And they get so good that over time, like I said, we're going to look back and be like, I don't understand why we were doing things like this before. And it's because that was the only way we could do it. But right now,
this has been the holy grail of computing.
Are freaking out because they're like, I'm not going to be necessary anymore.
So neither are the buggy whip makers. You find something else.
Yes, exactly. I always use stagecoach drivers, whatever it is. The women in the short skirts selling cigarettes on planes. Not necessary anymore.
Thank goodness.
Is anyone worried about the jobs?
There should be 250,000 jobs, people fired this past year in 2025 in the tech industry. 250,000. That's a lot of people out of work.
You could also find out whatever number of jobs that were lost supposedly because of AI, and I bet 90-something% of them was really just bad management.
Oh yeah, it was an excuse. Yeah, no, it was an excuse. Yeah.
Yep. And now this next story sounds so boring. I'm not even sure why it's here, but so Google is inevitably adding AI to Gmail because of course they are. But the observation I think I made in the notes probably is that when you think about data and how AI needs data and how AI is at its best with data and what are the use cases, and email is a pretty obvious one. This is like the low-hanging fruit, if you will. So the bigger thing in here to me though is there are some features that are better if you have a paid subscription. I think there's one feature you have to have a paid subscription. But of course, you can't take AI functionality and only give it to paying customers when you have a Gmail service that I think has, several billion users, whatever the figure is, 3 billion. So a lot of this stuff is actually just free for everybody. So this is something I'm always looking at. What was they used the term for this when you can move from service to service? What was the word you used? You remember? I don't remember the term, but
migrate.
Well, you were saying if you find this thing not to be adequate, you can go to the next thing.
Oh, fungible. They're all the same.
Fungible.
Yeah. They're equivalent. They're commodities. Yeah. Commodities is maybe a better word.
This is setting it up so that Outlook or whatever, or what used to be Hotmail or whatever services can't not do this stuff now, right? We're going to have these capabilities everywhere. And this is kind of interesting because I think these other companies, or a lot of companies, would want to just charge for this. But if others aren't, you can't. So it's gonna be an interesting little arms race here. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, obviously they're putting AI in Gmail. You can't spell Gmail without AI. Nailed it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's not just, is it just Gmail or it's everything? It's like...
it's everything, but they very specifically called out the features they were
It's a ton of data, man. Holy cow.
I stopped using Gmail years ago. I have a Gmail account, and we use it at our corporate, we're a Google Workspace customer for the business.
Right. See, I use it every day, but I use Fastmail. See how it changes over time, right? They have the little recommended replies and all that
So
stuff.
much stuff is written for Gmail and Microsoft Outlook. So much stuff. And I have a little bit of envy when I look over the fence and I go, well, can't do any of that. I did. You can with Claude. Since I'm spending so much money on Claude, I decided I better use every possible feature. You can connect your Google Drive, your Gmail, and all that stuff. You can give it permission to read it and write it if you want. So if you get emails from me saying weird things,
They just
it's not my fault.
Lots of emojis and dashes.
Bullet
and we know.
I think your AI is aware.
Let's delve into this, Paul. Yeah, that wasn't me.
It wasn't you. Okay.
But I am a little jealous, And by the way, Gemini 3 is really good.
Impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big three, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, are really neck and neck.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of interesting but not nearly as capable Chinese models.
Yeah.
There's some French stuff like Mistral.
Mistral.
And then there's Llama, which is OpenAI, Meta's AI. But honestly, I really think it's right now it's a horse race between OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. And Google has the advantage because they don't have to make money on AI particularly. They've got all this other revenue.
Right.
Yeah. And
something like I think,
but they're quickly trying to tie it to generating.
They're trying to spend
Microsoft
it.
should think about
no question about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel Microsoft's models are?
We really haven't seen.
I don't
much
have
of
any
Microsoft
experience with them. I mean, there's the small models like Phi that are, fine. I guess I don't know.
I want to get somebody on from Microsoft. Lou Maresca, who's a regular on our network, is responsible. He's at Microsoft. He's a product manager for AI and Excel. For Copilot.
So all the big guys have the small models too, right? So Google does this with Gemma, OpenAI does this, and I think there's something there. But I wouldn't be surprised if the future of small models is more open than big AI. If that makes sense. I feel like that's where that's heading, and especially when you get into specific use cases where we have small models for particular tasks, you can, or the system will maybe orchestrate it, right? Where you pick this one, and then maybe tomorrow it's a slightly different mix, but it won't matter because you'll always have the best, whatever the best is at the time.
Right.
I bet a lot of it's going to be open. We'll see.
I hope so. I mean, honestly, that would be the best outcome for us as users,
Yes.
The enshittification thing is problematic, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah.
I decided I was joking with him during the break. I'm going to enshritify my website just because I just want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's doing it.
Everybody's doing it. All the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah, there must be a reason.
What would it look like if you enshirtified Thurrott.com?
Well, the reason I said it was because I was clicking the links in the notes to bring up the next several articles, and I saw something I'd never seen before, which was like, it looked like we were blocking ad blockers or something. We don't do that. And I was like, what the hell is this thing? And I think it was caused by a plugin in the page that was for like displaying a Twitter tweet or whatever.
Oh,
So
yeah, because I'm
reloaded the
getting
page and
something weird happening when I go to Thurrott.com.
You are?
As soon as I log into Premium,
Oh.
and what's weird is I see the page briefly, which means there's some weird and it's going to report
Something, and maybe
error
maybe he's
report.com.
working on something, but our web guy there.
Well, I have a lot of weird ad blocking stuff. See that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at
I
that.
have a lot of weird ad blocking stuff going on. So
Yeah, we might be screwing around.
it's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if my next DNS is blocking.
It's working okay here.
Twitter
But I did see something weird earlier, and I showed it to. I was like, like, this is my site. I've never.
So it is.
didn't make that
enshirtified.
page.
Congratulations, Paul.
Yeah.
Well done.
It turns out it's enshirtification as a service.
Yeah, exactly. Can I subscribe to it? Is it something I could pay for every month?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You are watching, I'm sure you're glad you are, the wonderful Windows Weekly with these two beautiful cats here, Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com.
We got good art. That's what we got. We got
the best faux Picassos in the world.
There you go.
Right behind him.
Faux Picasso.
Faux Picasso.
Picasso.
Picasso. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like it's the Jetsons meet Picasso or something. And what's the owl doing there?
I know. I was just looking at the owl. The owl's weird. I think the owl's like, what the heck's going on behind me?
I like the color choices. I do.
Yeah.
And then on the right there, that's Mr. Richard Campbell. We're hanging out in his place in Acapulco. Great to have you with us today. Let's continue on because I think it's time for, yes, you've waited for it, you've begged for it, you've pleaded for it, the long-awaited Xbox segment.
Oh, don't blink. This is a short one, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Get the Halo music in there, man. Stretch it out. Phil.
Well, we're right at the holiday season. It's not like they have a lot to announce.
Yeah.
There was a really curious announcement today that came out of Xbox. In fact, I wonder if I could bring it up easily. No, probably not. Which I couldn't summarize easily if I had to, but it basically, here we go. So Microsoft is partnering with Nintendo and Sony to improve player safety across all the platforms. And then there's 1,000 words that don't say anything. And that's the whole thing. And I have no idea what they're talking. It's just like, okay, I saw this and I was like, I can't even write about this. This doesn't make any sense. Like, obviously you guys all care. Yeah, we care about people. We don't want people to be toxic. We get it. I don't know. It's not a lot there. Anyway, so the next big online event for Xbox games is January 22nd. It's called Xbox Developer Direct. This is a recurring event. And the two of the bigger things they're going to talk about is Fable, which I think is the remake, right, of Fable. And then Forza Horizon 6, which will be the next installment of that game. And presumably other games, right, as well. But that'll be something to look forward to. And then the other one is, this is a with us against us kind of a thing, depending on your perspective. But Avowed, which I want to say came out in late 2024. I believe it's over a year old now, is going to be coming to the PlayStation 5 on February 17th. And this is one, if I remember correctly, it's very reminiscent of other RPGs like this. I don't know how to play these kind of games, so I don't really even know what to compare this to, but it's well regarded. It's got good scores, et cetera, et cetera. I'm trying to figure out when it came out. I guess maybe it was actually just last year. Okay, could be less than a year.
Yeah, out in February 25.
Oh, it's February. Okay,
and they're swearing it'll be out in February 26 for the PS5. But it's Obsidian. They cross-platform their games all the time, don't they? I guess they're owned by Xbox. So
yeah, that's the thing. So this will just be more angst for people, but honestly, I don't see how this is anything but good news. Don't worry about it. They're doing good.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I got. I'm so sorry, but it's the beginning of January. There's just not a lot going on in the game world.
This is all I got.
Yeah,
peaceful. Yeah,
those are great looking icons, though. I will say, it's the guy who designed them.
Well, if I scroll down, I get you and lovely Stephanie.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. You see, it's loading and then it's saying no.
Yeah,
but I think that's my that's
it might be something. Yeah.
You didn't just start putting a crypto on
Maybe,
your website.
I can't.
He signed up for Insurtify as a service.
That's how you do it. Insurtify.
Yeah, no, it's coming up.
Insurtifyme.com.
There we go.
I kind of want to see that weird ad blocker thing I saw earlier.
Yeah, it's not going to happen again now that you're looking for it.
I've whitelisted you in NextDNS, and as soon as that propagates, I'll let you know if that
I appreciate the trust.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I trust you.
And
our show today, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by you, the people. You are Club Twit members. Gosh, I could not thank you more for your support. I really appreciate it. We have so many members now. It's great. But even with whatever it is, 12, 13,000 members, that's still a fraction, like 1.5% of the total audience. And I know, even that, you 1%ers are supporting us to the point that 25% of our operating expenses, 1/4 of everything we pay, the light bill, the staff, the hosts, is paid by the club, which is fantastic. I'd love that to be 100%. We wouldn't need to show you ads. We wouldn't need to do anything. We just, it's your way of voting for the content. So here, let me give you the pitch. It's $10 a month, $120 a year. There are corporate and family memberships. You do get 2 weeks free if you want to try it. I think the biggest benefit, besides the nice, fuzzy, warm feeling knowing that you're supporting this show and all the shows we do, is that you get ad-free versions of all the shows. So you'll never see this plug or, no more begging. You won't see any of our ads. You get access to the Club Twit Discord, which is a great social site. Really good. Now, maybe you've used this Discord before. This is not like any other Discord channel. This is great, smart, interesting people and having great conversations, not just during the shows, but all the time about all kinds of stuff geeks are into. So that's a great reason to join. We also do special shows in the Club Twit Discord. In fact, tonight, Micah, 6 p.m. Pacific, I should say 1800 Pacific, is going to be doing his monthly chill session. He does Lego, but you can do any kind of craft or creation or whatever. Just hang out for an hour with Micah, calmly chatting about all sorts of things. It's really fun. Our book club is coming up this week. I think Photo Time with Chris Marquardt's coming up this week. Book club's at the end of the month. We have an AI user group that's fantastic because we have a lot of users in the Discord who are active AI users who are really smart, really intelligent. I've learned so much from them. And so we get together on the first Friday of every month and talk about what we're doing. We've just scheduled, thank you, Anthony, we've just scheduled for the 29th, the return of Johnny Jett, who used to be on the radio show all the time talking travel. His whole motto is travel better with technology. So that will be a lot of fun. All of this is because of your support. So if you're not yet a member, please, twit.tv/clubtwit. We would really love to have you in the club. And it would make such a difference to us. And it is my goal. I just saw the stats on ad sales, billions and billions of dollars in ad sales going online, but most of it's going to influencers. In fact, the top, I think 1% of influencers get 30% of all the ads. The top 10% get half of all the ad revenue. Yeah, I'm an influencer. I'm not a Mr. Beast. We aren't getting all those ad dollars. They're really all going to people like Mr. Beast. And so I don't want to be dependent on that. I really would like to be, the ideal would be dependent on you, the listeners. If you like what we do, you want to support it, join the 1% who support Twit. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Maybe we can get it up to 5%. I think if we got it to 5%, we wouldn't actually have to have ads at all. Hey, everybody, Leo Laporte here. It's your last chance. We're in the final stretch of our 2026 audience survey. So important for us both to know you better, because we don't gather information about you except this one time a year, and it helps us with advertising, and we collect no personal information. We just want to know about you in general. So if you would help us out, if you haven't filled out our survey yet, this is the time. It closes January 31st. Twit.tv/survey26. It helps us improve our shows, and it helps us make money, and we need to do both. So survey is at twit.tv/survey26. Should only take a few minutes. Thanks in advance. Back to Acapulco. Did you have time, Richard? I stalled for you.
I got it. You did a great job.
Okay.
We're ready. We're ready.
We're ready. But first, as we go to the back of the book, let's do Paul Thurrott's tip of the week. Paul?
Yeah, I'm getting started on this one a little later than I intended, but
I like this one a lot.
The security one?
This is a great topic.
Yeah. So, in the sort of a January sort of resolution type of thing, like start the year right, looking at like kind of a security checkup. And this came out of something I started back in December when I was working on the new passkeys chapter for the book. And I did the same thing 2 years ago when I looked into passkeys, and then I went down this rabbit hole, ended up writing a bunch of stuff about the best ways to secure your Microsoft account and do passkeys, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be a sequence of things that comes out of this. I did some stuff. I did 2 episodes for Hands on Windows that aren't out yet on passkeys, and then I'm going to do some stuff on related topics. But the big thing for me is properly securing your online accounts, because that's the key to everything that you are and own, right? What, your Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, whatever accounts, where you have financial, personal data, whatever it might be. They all offer various ways to secure these accounts. And it all goes back to accounts are, in the online world anyway, an email address plus a password, which is insecure. So then we have like MFA, 2FA schemes where you get a text message, an email at a second account, an authenticator app. And now we have passkeys. And passkeys, I know this is still a weird thing for people, but when passkeys are properly implemented and properly configured by you on the client, whether it's a phone or a computer or whatever device, you don't have to type in anything. You just sign in and it uses the biometrics of the device to identify you and you're in. It's awesome. So I'm going to go through a series of things about this, but the big one to start with, and this will be the next thing I write, is just about password managers and how important it is to have a single password manager that you use to manage all of your passwords and passkeys, and that you don't have any duplicate passwords anywhere. You're using passkeys everywhere you can, and where you can't, using some form of good 2FA, which to me is an authenticator app, would be the first choice. But it's
not phone.
Not a phone. Yeah. So, if you think about a Microsoft account, all the different ways that you can verify your identity, you can have multiple secondary accounts that it can email to send you a code if you have to, right? So if it's a Microsoft account, maybe it's a Hotmail account, whatever it is, you could have a Gmail account, an Apple ID, whatever it is. And that's acceptable because those things have their own forms of protection built in, right? But an authenticator app is the best if you can. Well, a passkey is the best, but if you don't have that authenticator app, so that's a big chunk of it. So we'll go through this over the next few weeks. But I got over the hump of trying to get that passkey thing out because when I looked at passkeys in Windows 11. I'm going to miscount this, but I bet there are 7 different ways you can authenticate yourself using passkeys in Windows 11 right now. And it's just stupidity, but all anyone really needs is their passkey manager on their phone, which is a password manager, which you're using for autofill. And you can use with a QR code on a PC. And then an extension for your browser for that thing, right? And that's it. Simple. Works great. You don't need any of the built-in stuff.
But you got to do it in the first place. The setup to get going with it is some effort, and you just got to get used to it.
Yep.
I've also found, my annual now is going through and checking what have I not logged into in a year or two.
Right.
And maybe go delete that account if you can. Not whether that means anything or not is a question.
This is, and it's actually been 2 years since I've done this. So I'm trying to think what the best time frame is, but I think this kind of review is important, at least on an annual basis.
Yeah.
If you go into a password manager right now and just look at it, I'm sure it will tell you you're using dozens and dozens of repeat passwords like everyone does.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things in the tool is telling you, hey, you should change those passwords. They're the same as other ones. Retire all those passwords.
If the password manager you use requires a password, that's the only password you should ever remember yourself. Mm-hmm. That's it. The rest of it should be just something the password manager knows. You don't need to know that stuff. You're going to have this thing everywhere.
Best password is the one you don't even know.
Yeah. Right. It can't hurt you if it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. Like the password on my Bitcoin wallet, that one? Yeah.
That one you might want to remember. Not an expert. But the goal here is passwordless, right? Microsoft is fairly notable today because they actually let you remove your password from your Microsoft account if you want. But my experience
I did that.
Signing into...
You know what? That's caused a problem.
It sounds scary.
No, it's caused a problem with my Xbox.
Yes, well, you can create app passwords for that kind of a thing. There are ways.
I'm trying to log into my Microsoft account on my Xbox because it doesn't have a password.
Yeah.
And I don't have...
You can get around that.
Wait, you could if I had my Microsoft Authenticators working, but I got a new phone and anyway, I'm kind of in a loop.
You're in between time, space.
Yeah, it's okay. I didn't really want to play any games.
And there's always the argument of you're not really secure with passkeys until you've deleted your password. But
that's why I did it, right?
Yeah. But the reality is most people aren't worried about being secure. They're worried about convenience. And passkeys are actually more convenient than passwords.
Oh, they're great.
Yes.
I love passkeys.
They're more secure and more convenient. Yeah. So if I bring, when I bring up a new computer or a new web browser, the first time I use the web browser, I will install or sync the password manager, and I have to sign into that. So at that time, I type in the account and the password. I have an authenticator app that I do the 2FA on, and then I'm in. So then I go to gmail.com, and it just pops in the pass. I don't even type in my username. A passkey dialog appears from my password manager. And in this case, because I have multiple Gmail accounts, it says, which one do you want? And I click on it. Windows hello, I'm in. That's it. I don't type anything. It doesn't get more convenient than that.
Yeah.
And to Leo's point too, or maybe it's you, I'm sorry, whoever said this, if you leave that account, or that maybe I put the computer away, I never touch it, 6 months goes by, turn it on. Next time I've authenticated with Windows hello, however I did it, and I go to the browser and it's like, you need to sign in again. Passkey comes up and it authenticates me. I'm done. I don't type anything.
So fast.
It's wonderful. So I know this is kind of scary and it feels complex to people, but the reality is it is, in fact, much more convenient. The fact that it's also more secure is amazing. But if what you're worried, I feel like a lot of people make convenience-based decisions and compromise security.
Yeah.
And passkeys are beautiful because you don't have to do that. It's actually the best security, well, maybe other than the hardware key, but it's right there.
Yeah. The hardware keys are never convenient.
But they're not convenient. That's right.
They're
So it
never
combines
convenient.
those two things.
Yeah.
Yep. Big deal.
Yeah.
I'd hope that this was going to be I was going to publish something on this by now, but I hadn't. But I've been experimenting with ways to do AI locally. Last week, I think it was, I talked about, what's that thing called? Pam or Jan. Sorry, not Pam. Jan AI, right? So I was looking at the Microsoft stuff because I want to add AI capabilities to the app I'm working on. And there's a whole thing there. But Microsoft has Windows Foundry, which is for cloud-based AI, but they also have something called Local Foundry. And this is completely command line based. So you install it with winget in the terminal. Then you can browse the list of models that are available. So it's like Phi 4, Phi 3, Phi 3, Mistral, DeepSeek, Qwen, and some others. But the thing I like about this is, aside from the text mode thing, which I have to say I'm really leaning into, I'm kind of getting back into this. It lists models by what they can run against. So, for example, for Phi 4, I could choose between GPU and CPU-based models, and actually NPU, depending on the family. So I installed a couple of these, and you just run a command line to view what's available, view what you have installed, run a model. So I did this during the break. I just ran, it's like a DeepSeek R1 Distill Qwen 7B OpenVINO, but it runs on the NPU. So I could do something like, the thing I always do, like I need let's see, I'll do this right now, a 5-day Mexico City itinerary, because Richard's going to be there. See what it says. But what's kind of cool about this to me, it thinks and it talks and it does this interactive thing. When I was doing this in Gen I, and this was a CPU-based model, actually it's doing the same thing here a little bit. It's faster than it is on the Gen 1, but it seems like it's debating itself. It's like, okay, so you're going to do this thing. It's like, first I should do this. Oh, wait, it will say, wait, comma. Actually, you got to do this. And it does this whole thing, but it spews out this little, in this case, an itinerary, because that's what I asked it. And I suppose this is a little slower than some of the cloud-based stuff, but honestly, I'll just kind of read this quickly here as it goes, because it's just doing it live here. But
Question is it correct?
Yeah. And the big thing I'm looking for, and I always do this one, well, I know Mexico City, but the very first, that first announcement that Microsoft did for Copilot, which they weren't calling Copilot at the time, Yusuf Mehdi used this as an example because he was going to Mexico City because of a wedding. And so I thought, well, okay, this is a good way I can test these things. And for the first year or so, it would recommend things that were good to do in Mexico City, but they weren't near each other. So drive 40 miles out into the desert and do this, and then come back and go to the other far end of the city and go do this. It's like, no, that's not a good day.
Yeah.
This thing is still going, by the way. It's going to town.
But now it's detailed.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting the way it does this. So this is perhaps of a more technical nature, I get that. But if you want something that's specifically going to run against a GPU or an NPU, this is not the only way to do this, by the way, but this is one way to do it. And I came into this because I was kind of looking at it from a dev angle, but this is free. You install it through the command line. You use it through the command line. And honestly, I have to say the performance is good. Like it seems like it works pretty well. And you have your choice of models, of course, which I kind of like. So it's definitely worth looking at. You can do this on the Mac, I know, and I don't know Linux, but it is Mac and Windows at least. I feel like this is probably available everywhere. But
If it's on Mac,
enjoy a
it's probably
traditional
available
meal.
on
Thank you.
Linux.
I will.
Yeah. What's going on?
It's worth looking at.
Let's go.
Okay.
It's still
Thank
going.
you.
So funny.
Thank you. Well, is the fan on? Is the fan?
Participate in a traditional Puebla dance or music performance.
Woo! Let's do it.
Use a combination of buses, trolleys, and bikes. These are additional tips. Avoid peak hours to reduce crowds. Yep, that's true everywhere. As Norm MacDonald says, I'm going to take a brief moment, because actually all moments are brief, to do this thing.
Nice.
Oh, it finished.
Let us continue with the back of the book, because tequila awaits. But in between us and tequila is a fabulous episode of Run As Radio.
Oh, the amazing Jeremy Winter, because every so often I get a CVP, and I'm fortunate with Jeremy because I've known him since the early days of Microsoft.
Was he Hawk, the Hawk in the Marvel comic?
I don't think so.
No.
It's a different
also
one.
Not Jeremy Piven.
Okay. And he wasn't in Entourage? Okay.
No, he wasn't in Entourage.
Now, these days he's a CVP, but he's also the Chief Product Officer for the Azure Core platform. So he basically has overview on all the products that related to Azure Core, which means, just an unbelievable job. I think I asked him on the show, it's like, this means it's all your fault, isn't it? Kind of. But, they're trying to have they're trying to be, aware of what all the products are doing and how they interact and so forth, which is certainly a part of a challenge when you think Microsoft has something like 200 products in the Azure space. It's kind of crazy. So we were doing very much a catch-up show in the concept of, so what can we expect for 2026 for Azure as a whole, from the guy who's largely responsible for what we're going to see in 2026. And Jeremy leaned heavily on what they talked about at Ignite, which was in November when I was taking my little grandbaby around Australia, New Zealand, because I was not there. And a lot of emphasis on things like simplifying the process of migrating workloads into Azure, not landing you in virtual machine land if you don't want to be there, but rather giving you more gradients and so forth to be able to get more platform experience and decrease costs and resources and all of that. And of course, that means we have to talk a little bit about AI, because there's certainly roles for LLMs in helping sysadmins deal with those workloads, and also instrumentation, understanding the kind of telemetry they can expect, how things are behaving, what things are going to cost as they're operating, when they have runaway problems, that sort of thing. And we kind of wrapped up with some of the topics like Brad Smith, with how they're building out new data centers and trying to do it responsibly. And what that actually means for all of us, and just increasing choice and data sovereignty. He was savvy to the fact that more and more folks in other countries want their data to remain in those countries, even if they're in Azure data stores.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, now I think we've earned a little sip of something.
Disappointed we don't have more of this.
Well, there was more of it yesterday.
There was more.
Yes. So we we did a city tour yesterday with the significant others, and there were a number of beverages available to us while we were on the tour. And one of them was this bottle of Don Julio 70, literally this bottle. And
I was like, we're taking this with us.
Now, Don Julio is considered one of
so
the
we're
best tequila
this
brands.
is coming back.
without a doubt. And maybe we should run down, tequila versus whiskey. Where whiskey is derived from barley, tequila is derived from agave. The process of growing agave is a bit more complicated than barley. You don't grow it at near as much scale. It's a succulent. It prefers to grow at altitude, 5,000 feet and above, which is why places like Jalisco grow so well. It takes about 5 years for the plant to mature. It is a complicated plant to grow. Today, the seedlings are grown in indoor controlled spaces, and then the seedlings are put into the ground, and carefully their root beds are seeded. And it'll take at least, like I said, about 5 years for it to grow sufficiently that it actually makes a seeding stock called the quiote. And then once that matures enough, you have a central bulb called a pina. And that is what is harvested from the plant. And this is where all the sugars, the carbohydrates reside that you're going to break into sugars. The traditional, now in the case of barley, same thing, barley matures in about 4 months. And then you harvest that and you malt it to release the sugars by letting it partially sprout and then drying it to stop it. In the case of a pina, it is cut into pieces and then it is roasted. And the heating is what actually breaks the sugars down. In the same way that when you're malting barley, if you use the heat to dry it, actually is full of smoke because it's peat, you get a peaty whiskey. If you use smoky wood to heat the peanuts, you get a smoky mezcal. And a reminder that all agave-based alcohols are mezcals, but not all mezcals are tequilas. It's only certain regions that are allowed to be called tequila, including the Jalisco. It's not the only one. And then once the peanuts are sufficiently mature, the sugars are extracted from it. It comes out as kind of a syrup. So it is shredded. Modern methods, they use an extraction diffuser or instead of manual means. But ultimately, it's kind of like sugarcane that it actually gets, they call it a honey, although it depends on the quality of it, of course. Traditionally, the fermentation takes place in kind of in a lambic way. They don't directly control the yeast. Today, yeast is much more tightly controlled. So it's mixed with water and allowed to ferment to create a musto, much the same way that barley turns into a wort. And of course, all that open method has its own challenges. And then once you're up to that 5, 6, 7, 8% alcohol, you're ready to start doing distillation. Tequila is traditionally distilled twice. Sometimes it's called in a column still, they call it the shredding phase, and then with a pot still for rectification. In the case of Don Julio, it's all pot stills. They're typically stainless steel rather than copper because there is no sulfurs to chelate, so they don't need the copper in this equation, although some do use copper as well. Raw product ends up being about 65% alcohol. It is traditionally chill filtered now. It has been for some time to reduce the cloudiness, flocculation, the same way many whiskeys are chill filtered as well. And if you take that product at that point and cut it with water to be at 40%, you've made Blanco, silver tequila, considered the most traditional type of tequila. It's all agave flavoring getting from that. If you now put it in oak barrels for a few months, it's now a reposado. It's been rested. That's what reposado means. And it'll have a little color. If you put it in for more than a year in an oak barrel, it's now an añejo. And then there are extra añejos, which will be 3+ years. Reposados, the barrel size doesn't matter much. They'll use as big as 20,000 liter barrels. In the case of añejos, it's no larger than 600 liters. And it's becoming very hip. And what I had planned on talking about for today's show was it's become very hip to age in used oak barrels, bourbons, wines, and so forth, very much the way that the whiskey industry has gone. But we ended up with this particular bottle of Don Julio. We've, of course, never talked about Don Julio on there. He is a man, or was a man. He has passed away now. Don Julio Gonzalo Frosto Estrada. He was born in 1925 in Jalisco, and from a family of distillers. He worked in his uncle's distillery as young as 7 years old. But his father died when he was 15, and then he started working full-time to help support his family. And the most money he could make was selling tequila. He sold it from horseback, had 2 15-gallon barrels on either side of the horse, and he was selling whiskey that way. It was his uncle's, or selling tequila that way. It was his uncle's tequila. At 17 years old, he convinced one of the wealthiest men in his town to lend him 20,000 pesos to start his own distillery at 17. It's 1942. That distillery is called the La Primavera, the spring, and it's still in operation today. I'm sure some of these stories are apocryphal, but Don Julio was very much a quality over quantity kind of guy. He was big on vertical integration, which is to say he owned the land to grow the agave right through to the bottling plant. He was big on allowing natural maturation of agave. He gave the plants more space. He let them grow for longer. He would only harvest them when they're fully mature rather than doing a whole field. They would take them out at about 20% of the time as they were maturing. So they optimized the quality of the juices. He did longer roasting than most to increase the amount of juice extracted. He also would throw away the initial juices that came out as they were more bitter and only take the sort of heart of those extractions. And his original project was called Tres Magueyes, or the Three Agaves, possibly named for his 3 sons. They didn't actually start making a whiskey called Don Julio until 1987. So for 40 plus years, he was making his own whiskey under his own brand. He never thought to name it himself. But as he got older and more of the family was involved, they started dealing with the larger corporations. And in 1999, the Seagram Company made a major acquisition into Don Julio and started expanding it, and then promptly went bankrupt in 2000. And in the process of Seagram's insolvency, which is a really big, complicated story, some of which we've talked about before, the beverage assets of Seagram's were broken up between Diageo and Pernod Ricard. This was the first time that Diageo got into the tequila market, and they got real excited about it because it was a pretty good market. So they also, while only have a minority stake in Don Julio, which was a very small craft brand, then went to buy one of the largest brands, which was Jose Cuervo at the time. Don Julio passed away at 87 years old in 2012, and that's the first year of the Don Julio 70, which nominally was a 70-year-old company at that point. He started in 1942, it was now 2012. And that first edition, they called it Añejo Claro. So as I just described, the way they were making their tequila, they would age it in barrels up to 18 months, but then they'd run it through a charcoal filtration step so that it went crystal clear again. And so they called it Claro, which is an odd thing to do. You're kind of taking flavors and color back out of it. But it was sort of an aesthetic thing, and it was a special edition. And let's face it, Don Julio was dead at that point, so how is he going to complain?
Let's just trample on his grave.
That's
fine.
it, yeah. Diageo ultimately fails to take over Cuervo entirely and ends up making a deal in 2014 to buy the rest of Don Julio, which is now partly owned by Cuervo and by Diageo, take sole control of Don Julio by selling Cuervo, the Beckman Group, the Bushmills distillery in Ireland, as you do. And so that by 2015, none of Don Julio's family is involved in making Don Julio tequila anymore. And so we come to this version,
which explains this thing.
Yeah, and the direction we're about to go in. So this edition is called the Don Julio 70 Cristalino, or Crystal, because it's the world's first Cristalino Añejo tequila. Now, Cristalinos have emerged on the market in the past few years as these filtered añejos, so matured, but then filtered to clarity. And that is weird, but not ultimately horrible. Again, a lot of purists think you should just drink Blanco in the first place. It's the most pure manifestation of the agave. That resting in barrels is sort of diminishing. But then to rest in barrels and then filter it all out is just bloody odd. But the bigger issue here is the issue of additives. That things get added to tequila as well in these finishing steps, sometimes to stabilize them. Like we have additives that occur in whiskey too, right? We'll often add caramel color. Some companies like caramel color to make a more consistent product. You can make exactly the same whiskey or exactly the same tequila, exactly the same way, but because plants are plants and they're not always the same, and the environment changes, humidities change, temperatures change, you're not going to get an identical looking or tasting product. And often with the looking, we don't care all that much. The fact that they colored a bit, whatever. When you start playing with the taste is when people start getting worried. And so in Cristalinos in general, and it's not just Don Julio, there's been a bunch of Cristalinos, because so many flavors get stripped out of it, they start to add things back in. And according to the rules of tequila, up to 1% can be other things. And so the most obvious one is some sweeteners or some flavorants like vanillas. So they got a little bit of vanilla to lighten up the flavor and so forth. We've even seen cases where they put oak extracts in to sort of add back woody flavors. Kind of strange. The one that disturbs me is adding glycerin. Now, this is edible glycerin, but it gives a thickness and a richness to it that's entirely artificial.
That's disgusting. I don't want to drink glycerin.
Well, and it's, you not be alone. And you got to say, well, what's the whole idea? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing all this extra work to make a Cristalino in the first place? Additives or no? And the argument is, just like last week's show, we were talking about the Singleton of Dufton, where it was a recruitment malt. It was an easy to drink malt, by the way, also made by Diageo.
Yeah.
This is a recruitment tequila designed to be sweeter and lighter. Yeah, sweeter and lighter on the better suited to the North American palate, or particularly the American palate, on the idea that if you like this, maybe you'll start buying into other tequilas as well. Tequilas by their nature are sort of a bold and complex product.
They are.
And some people find that off-putting.
It's like drinking kerosene,
peppery
frankly.
and Yeah, they can be very pointy in that respect. The same way some whiskeys come that way too. And so this is sort of an entry part. That's not the real problem. Let's talk about the real problems, okay? And I'm going to talk about a website that was originally called Taste Tequila, and then has been called Tequila Matchmaker for some time. Today it's called Agave Matchmaker. Started back in 2009, and it's very much like Tapped for beer. This was an app you could get on your phone as well as a website to help you pick tequila. It was created by a guy named Grover Sensgarjian. And as they turned to that social media dynamic where people were ranking their tequilas, what they liked and so forth, this whole discussion about additives came into play. And not just for Cristalinos, but for others, but Cristalinos particularly notorious. And they started building up an additive-free list. And it got to the point that in 2019, Grover helps organize a group called the Additive Free Alliance. It's a website still up today. And this whole idea that truly pure tequila, really 100% agave is better tequila. Now, there is a regulator for tequila. It's called the Consejo Regulador del Tequila, or CRT. It is not actually a Mexican federal agency. It's partially funded by the Mexican government. It's an independent agency, and all products called tequila have to be certified by them. And this is when we get into the things like, if it's going to be called tequila, it has to be 100% agave. If you put other spirits into it, it's called a mixto, which those products do exist, but they're not particularly popular. And by 2023, the AFA, this Additive Free Alliance, is popular enough that some tequila makers have signed on and are now putting labels on their bottles saying we're part of the Additive Free Alliance. This is additive free tequila, right? Really powerful stuff, and really upsets the CRT. They're the regulatory body. And here's this independent guy, and he's American, although at this point he's living in Mexico and has been experimenting with tequila and so forth. And so they announced their own additive-free program, and the federales roll on Tequila Matchmaker. They actually go into their offices and seize computers and the little stills they're experimenting with and so forth, and set up this case against Grover and his wife. Now, at the time they happen to be in New York, and they've never been back to Mexico, but there is litigation going on. And in that process, recently he had to announce that they're removing all brands from the additive-free list. He announced that on social media. So it sounds like what's happened is the CRT has basically gone to the whiskey makers to say, if you put this on your bottle, we won't certify your tequila anymore. And so they've got this set of ongoing court cases both in the US and Mexico to resolve this. And that's not where this ends. So as that whole thing blew up, several large law firms got involved, and there are now class action lawsuits both in New York and California, identifying specifically Don Julio, and not just 70, but many of the different brands, also Casamigos, which is another Diageo product, to the point where they want to file RICO racketeering charges. That Diageo has been collaboration with CRT to conceal the fact that these 100% agave labeled bottles aren't 100% agave spirit. That gas chromatograph testing has shown they're less than 50% of the alcohol content is agave. The rest is grain spirit.
Oh,
now, oddly enough, Diageo has access to a lot of grain spirit. Yeah. And so it's a way, they're basically making mixtos, although even a mixto is supposed to be 51% agave. This is
disappointing.
They're even less than it.
That's terrible.
And further testing is starting to show other brands, including Michael Jordan's Sincoro, 818, that this has been going on for some time. And it begs the question, why? I mean, is it just to save money?
Cheap.
Tequila has become incredibly popular in the past few years, right?
Every
That's why
celebrity has a tequila. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they're all manufactured in the same places.
Oh, is it a high profit thing? Is that why the celebrities do it?
Well, it is because it's very inexpensive to produce. But one of the problems that's happened is, and it's crashed the agave market itself. So in the early 2020s, as tequila was taking off, agave prices jumped up. An average agave farmer, and many of them are independents, right? They're not like the original Don Julio where they're growing their own. They're independents. We're able to sell peanuts for as much as $30 a peanut. Today, it's $3.
Yeah.
So the market, part of that is overgrowing. But the bigger issue here is demand went up. The distilleries didn't keep up. And maybe peanuts have gotten cheap, but stills haven't. right? And the cost to expand your distillery is expensive and time-consuming and difficult in a place like Mexico. There's only so much land, there's only so many spaces, so many trained people. And you know what's easy to do? Add grain spirit.
Yeah, and sure.
A way
so
to stretch the
disappointed.
product very effectively. So the agave farmers have really taken on the head. They were complaining to the CRT for some time about this disruption and the fact that their peanut sales were dropping off even more. And they're aware of the mixto, of the fact that there was other things going into that. And so they certainly hit it. There's a big outcry towards the government now to intercede on all of this, that it is a collusion. And there's so many different elements. So you've got the farmer saying this is going on. You've got a bunch of lawyers in the class action lawsuit. You have the whole discovery side of the Additive Free Alliance, so forth. It's massive. It's just sort of everywhere in this space. And so it's a really bad time for tequila. Now, that being said,
It's very good.
it's very good.
Is there a way to
very good.
know if one's
Also,
got additives? I mean,
Just from sort of anecdotal experience, like we spend a little bit of time at bars. And in Mexico, back in September, October, you started seeing like Patron, classic kind of silver with the green top, was starting to get replaced by their version of Crystal with a black top, just like this. So they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And this is everywhere in Mexico City.
And I think this is all the same problem, which is that the popularity of tequila has jumped up enough that it's a rush to stay in the market. You can't speed a cab. It takes 5 years to grow, right?
Yeah.
We saw this happen in the whiskey market. There was a period there where Macallan fell behind their production, just couldn't make more Macallan 12, and they started making these no age statements like Sienna and all these different brandings just to have more product.
I think this is less of an issue for tequila maybe than it is for, say, Scotch or whiskey, but this is like the gateway drug. This is how you get people in who maybe aren't into hard alcohol. You could drink this as we are, just by itself or with some ice or whatever and some lime. It's good by itself.
Yep.
I think that's the appeal.
Yeah.
It's
that's the glycerin.
super approachable.
It's approachable. It's the glycerin.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But you're in this industry.
Glycerin.
I rarely talk about the flavors of these products, right? Because they're all pretty good in one way or the other.
They're not as refined. I get the sense as
Yeah.
whiskeys.
Well,
I feel like they could be.
but they tend not to age for really long, right?
Yeah.
It's just not the style, right?
So this is like silver but aged.
Yes, you could spend 18 months in a barrel, and then they sucked all the color and flavor out of it, and then added it back in.
So aging makes it
food, Richard.
Yes.
So we were, of course, in Oaxaca with Mike Elgin and his wife Amira during one of their gastronomads, and I'll show you. Actually, we went out into the agave fields.
Yeah.
And we actually went. So mezcal, which is funny, you can't get in the United States really good mezcal. They don't export it.
Right.
They don't feel like there's a market for it. Look at these are all the agave growing.
This is half of Mexico looks like this. It's just agave everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we went to, so what they do is they roast it. That's where you get that smoky flavor. And here I am chopping the roasted piñas up. They roasted it but this is mezcal.
I don't appreciate it when people from another country come in and
with
take
a machete.
away. Like
I brought my own machete. Yeah. And then they grind it with this giant millstone.
Yeah.
And then they ferment it, of course. And then afterwards, that's the ferment coming off the still. And this is what happens after you drink too much of it.
That's what we were doing that in the van yesterday.
Actually, this is a pulque bar. One of the things I wish they sold in the U.S. is the precursor to a tequila or mezcal, which is kind of partially fermented. It's more like a beer, and it's delicious. I love pulque. So we're in a pulque bar, and I've had a little too much.
As one would.
As one does. Little too much pulque.
So the funny part, of course, is I did not go into talking about this. I was going to talk about Cristalinos, but then as we sort of unpeeled the onion, all this, and every so often I'd lean over at Paul and like, I blame you for this.
So you would recommend this? This is a good bottle.
If more had been open, we might have gone in a different direction. But honestly, this is very good. That's the problem. It is approachable.
Yeah, it's super approachable.
Yeah.
But again, why are you buying something? Like, this product has now been tailored so that it tastes really good rather than the typical craftsman approach.
It's the Cheeto
product
of tequilas.
100%. It's been Cheetoized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course it's good. It had no choice to be good. They tuned it to be good with things you cannot resist.
Yeah.
Vanilla.
I'm super disappointed by how empty this thing is.
Yeah. I have to also admit that, are you milking that bottle now? Okay. That's great.
Wow. Paul.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure you can
Are we
get
on
some
camera?
more.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can get some more at some point.
There's some more tequila.
If only there was a place I could get more of this. Oh, wait.
I don't want to get to a place where all I talk is about the prices of various alcohols, because there's certainly stories in whiskey like this as well. But and I've not been a person to necessarily pile onto Diageo because I've seen them protect various brands and styles and help smaller companies grow. But this is very much hand in the cookie jar. There's so much evidence there, and of course they're denying it all. They've moved to dismiss the class action. Like, they're doing their thing. They are a giant company.
You know what they need? Brad Smith.
Yeah, apparently. That would get them through.
All right. So do you have a recommended tequila? I mean, is this it?
I would still go to what the site is now called Agave Matchmakers and take a look at what they're coming up with.
So in the U.S., they're allowed to say non-additive. It's only in Mexico.
They are not.
They're not.
They've had to pull off, but if you look at the way they're ranking things, you'll know that the folks there, it's their community, are very aware of what's additive or not. And are clear.
But honestly, if you, we can't get good. Well, I don't know. We can get. I'm not in the United States, so I'm not really sure. But if you can find an añejo, of Don Julio, or
it's pretty darn good.
And by the way, this I did
Patron.
price this at Bevmo, it's $80.
Yeah.
And it's arguably an adulterated whiskey. Like, it should be $25.
It's a tequila flavored sugar drink that I find to be very pleasing.
Yeah, you're very happy with it, I can tell.
It's not just the glycerin. It's the sugar.
It's not. No, it's got the glycerin aftertaste, but really,
that just gives it a syrupy texture.
The sugar will keep you there.
That's the point of that.
it just.
Although you could use it
nodding off.
It'd be good for, like, if you wanted to massage or rub down. It'd be a very nice.
They say the way to know if a tequila has additives into it is you drip a little on the back of your hand and you let it dry.
Oh,
and then if you're sticky, there was something in it, because pure tequila will be just agave spirit and water.
Sit there for so long.
Yeah,
you'd see it.
What's the site again? Agave Addict.
Agave Matchmaker. Tequila, or go to Tequila Matchmaker. It's the same location.
Okay,
and is this.
That's community. A reasonable place to go. Yes, I've never even heard of
folks have been at the forefront of all this additive issue.
That's so funny. I've never heard of any of these brands.
Yeah.
Fortaleza, Lalo, Ocho, Terra.
Well, and this is the thing that's happened as tequila has become so popular. Small producers have been able to play.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those, but they're not in the U.S.
No.
Isn't that interesting?
But even in Mexico, I've only seen a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tequila,
So I think a lot of people think tequila is not great. Maybe they've just not been drinking.
No, those people are wrong.
Maybe they've not met the right tequila.
No, they're incorrect.
Lisa certainly does.
And really, practice makes perfect. Is all I'm saying.
And even if the first one's not that great, by the third one it'll be amazing.
Right. 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a very hot day in Acapulco or Oaxaca, actually.
Yeah.
It's going to be the perfect drink.
What do you think of mezcal compared? I mean, they're all mezcals. Tequila is a type of mezcal.
It's the subset.
So I don't personally like smoky drinks.
I don't either. I don't really like it.
And mezcal's not automatically smoky, right? It all depends on what they did with the peanuts.
Yeah.
It's only how they roasted out the peanuts.
I tell you, every day we were in Oaxaca for a week. Every meal they would.
Oh my God, it's the biggest
force mezcal on you.
Yep.
It's like you couldn't.
As the guy in Taco Bar said to me one time, he kept trying to give me mezcal. And I said, I've told you this 100 times, I don't like mezcal. And he says, but you should like it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
they love it.
I should, but I don't. So
they love it. They drink it like water.
Would be easier if I did. But.
Yeah. Well, I think we've learned a lot here. I didn't realize how common adulterated tequilas were. I'm actually quite disappointed.
And we don't know how common it is. It would only make sense for the organizations that have easy access to grain spirit. So most of the small producers are just not going to have that.
Right. So, for example, the Patron makes a version of this. I wonder if theirs is similarly.
They're a
most
big company.
cristals are suspect, right?
Oh, really?
The Cristalinos, yes. Because they have a problem with the flavoring. It's become very stylish, and now they're trying to get the flavors right.
Right.
That being said, like they've been clear that there are Cristalinos that don't have any additives to them. They're just harder to find. But we get back to this craftsmanship thing. It's like, the closer you get to these guys are just making tequila, they're not a massive conglomerate, the higher the chances this is going to be the product it actually says it is.
Okay.
Which is the reverse of the way things used to be.
Yeah.
100 years ago, it was the big companies that were making safe products.
Right.
And now today, and little guys couldn't afford to make safe products. Right. It's just too expensive.
Right.
And now the big guys are the ones making the sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
What's
big
the
tequila? It's ruining everything.
What's the tequila? When we were in Cabo, they have a tequila that's in a kind of ceramic bottle with blue.
Yeah. So
has a bell
that's
on
widely
top.
considered to be garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fancy. It's fancy.
The bottle is beautiful.
Yeah.
And
it's
the
a
top
gorgeous
looks like an agave plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not good, huh?
Well, I've never actually had it. It's so expensive, but everyone I've talked to said, no, that's terrible.
Yeah. It's what they sell to tourists, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful bottle. I mean, just to have it on your shelf, it's
it's funny because
for that price it ought to be.
We went to our local Mexican restaurant last night, and they have the lamps are made out of those bottles, and they put the bells on the wall. So which is a very good use of them. Okay. This is good. This is all good information. I think we've all learned something today.
It's for the ladies. And also I love it for some reason, which is weird. But it's
well, the old song, Paul, and I would remind you, tequila makes your clothes fall off.
yes.
So careful.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Paul Thurrott. What?
Sorry.
What? You're going to say something about that? Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. That's, of course, become a premium member. It is a great place for lots of great content. And, of course, his books are at leanpub.com, including The Field Guide to Windows 11 and Windows Everywhere, a tour through the history of Windows via its programming frameworks. Mr. Richard Campbell's at runnasradio.com. That's where you'll find his podcasts, Run As Radio and .NET Rocks. How much longer, Paul, you're going to stay in Acapulco?
So we go back tomorrow, but Richard and Stacy are coming the next day, and they'll be here over the weekend. So
wonderful. You're going to go to Mexico City next.
Yeah, we're going to spend a few days in Mexico City together, and then I'm headed home Monday. So next show will be from the coast.
Paul will be in Mexico City, and Mr. Campbell will be in British Columbia, and I never go anywhere. I'll be sitting right.
Don't worry, the following week I'll be in London. You'll be fine.
We do Windows Weekly every Wednesday at 1100 Pacific. Let's see, that'd be 1300 East Coast time, be 1900 UTC, 1900 UTC. You can watch us do it live. We stream to our club, of course, Club Twit Discord, but also to YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. So watch live if you want, but you don't have to. On-demand versions of the show available at our website, twit.tv/dubdub. There's audio and video there. There's a video on the YouTube channel dedicated to Windows Weekly. Great way to share clips with friends and family. And the best thing to do is subscribe. That way you'll get it automatically as soon as we're done fixing it up. And incidentally, if you do get a podcast client that allows reviews, would you leave us a nice 5-star review? Because we never put glycerin in this show. No additives. Nothing but the purest.
Maybe a little sugar in there, but
no vanilla for sure.
Sometimes a little sugar. But everything's better with sugar. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Richard. Have fun. What are you doing tonight? Anything fun?
Oh, I'm sure we'll get into some trouble.
I have a feeling it'll be down at the bar.
I think we're on the lookout for some pulpa. It's his favorite.
Pulpa. Yeah, that sounds good.
Bad pulpa moment. It's okay.
I've designed my own celebrity tequila, and we figured out the bottle. I think is going to look like this.
I saw that.
I hope you like it.
Nice.
And we will be selling that in better liquor stores everywhere. Guaranteed less than 50% glycerin. promise.
Well, that doesn't sound that good.
How good can it be?
It's smooth, very
Just
smooth.
make it called the big G.
That's what we call it, actually. Big G tequila.
Big G.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.